Chapter 578. 1 minute ago. There was no rescue. There was no intervention. The Parliament seemed to have completely sealed off the sub-death space, where the two of them were. No one would come to rescue them. Han Dong could roughly guess the Parliament's purpose for doing this. Perhaps Abel would immediately leave this place the moment he died. The Parliament had some special means to allow Abel to be reborn before he completely died. However, Han Dong did not dare to take the risk. If there were any problems, Abel's future would be ruined here. Moreover, in the end, he would also be killed. The attraction of the same origin would allow the female corpse to absorb Han Dong's life essence. This is a little too much. Han Dong stood under a big tree that was filled with red fruits. Due to his serious injuries and stepping into the sub-death world, Han Dong did not have any extra strength to participate in this battle. However, there was still one last way. It was a very dangerous way that would expose his secret. Whispers echoed in Han Dong's ears. "Nicholas, if you don't think of a way, you will die here. Even if your secret is exposed, as long as this kid's grandfather and Mr. Black and White speak up for you, you should still be able to avoid the death penalty. Even if you lose the right to live in the holy city, don't you still have two manners? Ha ha ha, come, quickly taste the fruits nourished by the blood wine. Let me help you." 5 should be enough. Han Dong held the bright red fruit in his hand and ate it crazily. As he swallowed the fruit, blood-red veins appeared on his cheeks and spread through his neck to his whole body. The red fruit juice dyed Han Dong's face with a bright red outline. Caw caw caw, as Han Dong ate these red fruits, hundreds of crows flew on the branches and kept cawing. The meal ended. Black sand condensed on his left arm and turned into a black sand blade. Asterisk whoosh. Asterisk he cut off his own arm. The right arm with the eye was temporarily separated, it still belonged to Han Dong. The crows flew over and picked up the G-arm. They covered the arm with mucus secreted from their beaks and temporarily preserved it. "Count, lend me your power." He took out the arm that was stored in the biological laboratory. He was wearing a cone-shaped wrist guard on his wrist. It was no longer the arm of the clown. He connected it to the wound. Homology. The moment the two came close to each other, a large amount of blood vessels appeared, intertwining with each other and quickly fusing together. There were no signs of rejection. It was also because of this that Han Dong's right eye was completely dyed red. He no longer held anything back. Any mercy would lead to Abel's death. Now Han Dong was fearless. He released all of his tentacles and cooperated with Count's tentacle specialization. The barking continued. A dog's head with red eyes and gray spots all over its body formed on the surface of the right arm. When all of this was done, the female corpse took out a dagger and aimed it at Abel's heart. Speed up. The blood flow in his body increased. Together with the push of Han Dong's sand, he arrived at the most crucial moment. The dog head made of faceless one's tentacles, whether it was erosion or damage, was higher than Count's own scarlet dog head. It bit off the woman's arm. Han Dong immediately followed up. He kicked the female corpse's waist and sent her flying. At this moment, Han Dong could no longer be called a human. Even if the left half of his body was normal, the right half of his body was completely transformed. "Abel, I will get you out of here." Absorb. Han Dong's left palm turned, and a circle of scripture was formed. With the method of life absorption, he absorbed the remaining death aura in Abel's body. At the same time, Han Dong held the raven staff in his left hand and touched the ground. Black magic, scarab tide, was activated. In the sub-death space, Han Dong's black magic was also enhanced. The densely packed sacred beetles attacked the female corpse like a tide. However, the female corpse, who retreated more than 10 meters, was also chanting ancient Egyptian magic. A large number of dark gold-winged locusts immediately poured out of the female corpse's mouth and collided with the scarabs. Two similar types of black magic, but due to the difference in level, the scarabs were immediately cut apart by the locust's wings. For a moment, the sky full of locusts wrapped around Han Dong. At this moment, boom! Ultra-hot hellfire attacked from the side. Feeling that his master was in danger, Togu used all of his lava power to melt through the relatively fragile bottom of the coffin. The first thing he did was to break free. Togu summoned the hottest hellfire to burn the locusts in the air. The flames seemed to restrain these black magic. A large number of locusts in the air were ignited and fell to the ground. The hellfire also interfered with the female corpse's vision. Unaffected by the burning, a red figure quickly jumped out. Taking advantage of the fact that the woman had not reacted, the tip of the raven's staff directly poked the woman's chest. Forced desertification. Black sand spread out on the surface of the woman's body. At the same time, Han Dong's right arm carried the blood dog to bite the woman's skull. Ding! The canine teeth bit on the dark golden skull. The hardness was completely different from the previous arm. It was difficult to penetrate. Even the tentacles could only slightly penetrate a part of the skull, unable to damage the brain structure. The level of the faceless head is too low? Is this a creature from the night-level destiny space? At the place where the staff touched, the desertification was also suppressed by the female corpse, unable to spread further. Hercules Colosseum. Due to the unknown situation, the situation had become somewhat chaotic. When the councilman blocked Death God Alex, not letting him interfere with the special project carried out by the councilman, boom! A giant beast descended and stood on the wall of the garden, glaring at the bald councilman in front of it. The roar that resounded throughout the entire place came from the giant beast's mouth. I have never heard of any special test. I, Kaimon Ryan, strictly request that the councilman stop this unreasonable behavior. If my grandson suffers any irreversible damage, I will lead the Behemoth Knight Regiment to confront the councilman. The bald councilman had a calm expression. Commander Kaimon, your words may be classified as a traitor. Please calm down, the special test will end soon. Commander Kaimon wasn't as calm as Death God, and the one involved was his grandson. He directly used a beast palm that was larger than a human body to grab the councilman in front of him. Whoosh! A silver light fell. The scythe blocked between the beast palm and the councilman. Alex, do you also want to oppose me? When Commander Kaimon was angry, he feared nothing, even the death god would want to beat him up. Calm down, attacking the councilman will deprive you of your qualification as a commander, it's not worth it. At this moment, the bald councilman seemed to have received a message from a certain sage, deep within the councilman. I will now open the sub-death space for the two commanders. Although the test hasn't ended, the effect has been achieved. I believe that the two of you will understand the councilman's actions when you see the situation inside. The councilman waved his hand. The sub-death space immediately merged with the real world. What is that? The tentacles are mutated. Why is there a mature hybrid demon here? No, isn't that a graduate of mysticism? Everyone exclaimed, because in their eyes they saw a young man emitting the aura of a hybrid demon. The dog head that was weaved by gray tentacles was completely exposed in front of the 13 knights. Alex stared at Han Dong's form and frowned. This is bad. Chapter 579. When he saw the half-transformed Han Dong, he was stunned. The 13 captains all had different expressions on their faces and emotions. Black, white, something happened. The Great Plague Leader's expression was very ugly. Although the Great Plague Leader hated the hybrid demons, Nicholas's student changed his prejudice to a certain extent. Oh no! It's really over this time. The council actually made a fuss during the night election, using such a high-level creature of destiny to force Nicholas to reveal another part of his ability and let the whole holy city know about this matter. Even if Alex, Black White, and I all vouch for him, we can only guarantee that Han Dong will not die. This matter cannot be covered up. It will be difficult to stay in the holy city in the future. Malone was furious. He directly crushed the armrest of his chair, which gave the vice-leader Otto a big fright. The sub-death space was removed. The female corpse that was fighting with Han Dong was also instantly suppressed by the bald councilman, who used a pharaoh's coffin seal that was prepared in advance to reseal her. Han Dong lowered his head and slowly retracted the tentacles into his body, remaining silent. Warren Nicholas, there is currently sufficient evidence to prove that you have the hybrid demon attribute. Your human identity is suspected by the Supreme Council. Now I, Metophis Tausidin, 31, as the Council's executive officer, will be detained in the central prison for further investigation. The subsequent trial time will be announced to the whole city after the night election. The bald councilman landed in the center of the garden. In the garden area, Demps had just passed through the apple tree path and arrived here. His expression was stiff, there was nothing he could do. No. Nicholas is a real human, Abel, who was lying on the ground, shouted at the top of his lungs, but he still could not stop the councilman's actions. Abel, go back with me first. Our leaders will think of a way to deal with Nicholas. Cayman was naturally most concerned about his grandson. The huge body landed beside Abel and immediately brought the seriously injured Abel to the side of the field to receive treatment from the holy medical team. The leader of the Grim Reaper, who was floating in the air, stared at the tentacles that were slowly retracting on the surface of Han Dong's right arm and could only helplessly shake his head. In this post-apocalyptic world, there was no such thing as kindness. The humans were almost wiped out by the hybrid demons. Hybrid demons definitely could not exist among humans. Even if some people believed that Han Dong was biased towards humans and had humanity, they would not be able to do so. However, he was unable to convince the entire sacred city. As the highest decision-makers, the counselors would not allow such an unknown factor to remain in the holy city. Even though they knew that Han Dong didn't cause any harm to the sacred city at all. Even though they knew that Han Dong was likely to become the flame of hope for the sacred city. However, the Senate stood at the top of the holy city. Every decision they made could lead to the extinction of mankind. The senators did not dare to gamble with the weak flame of hope in exchange for the current stability of the holy city. Before the trial, you will not be harmed in any way, so please do not put up any unnecessary resistance. Metophis smiled as he took out a type of anti-magic handcuff and extended it towards Han Dong. At this moment, slap! Someone grabbed the senator's arm. Oh, I'm so sleepy. Metophis, as you happen to be here, I must explain. The work report of our secret word nights has to be postponed for a week. With such a huge workload and the current lack of manpower, we cannot complete it in the expected time. Captain Hugo, we can talk about work after the meeting. Also, what do you mean by this? Captain Hugo had disappeared about an hour ago, because no one paid attention to the secret word knights, who were at the edge of the audience seats and only had one captain present to watch the finals. No one noticed Captain Hugo's movements at all. Hugo used his other hand to ruffle his messy hair and looked at the senator with a meaningful gaze. I mainly see that you are here to explain the work problem. Secondly, this trainee knight Nicholas is quite good. He can be my assistant and make up for the lack of manpower. I'll also say that you don't seem to have any concrete evidence to prove that this Nicholas has the attribute of a hybrid demon. As soon as he said this, the senator was not the only one who was confused. The captains and knights present were also confused. Everyone saw the tentacles that overflowed from Han Dong's body with their own eyes. Everyone smelled the aura that originated from the hybrid demon. Wasn't this the most powerful evidence? If an ordinary person grew such tentacles, they would definitely be in a state of deep pollution and decay. The bald senator responded with a smile. I don't quite understand what Captain Hugo means. Currently, I am escorting Nicholas to the prison. If Captain Hugo wants to stop me, you will be held responsible. Just by smelling the aura and seeing the tentacles, you can conclude that he is a hybrid demon. That's not rigorous at all. Nicholas's performance is obvious to all. If we give up on this outstanding graduate because of such a simple judgment, it will be a huge loss to the Holy City. I request that the identity of Warren Nicholas be verified on the spot and that the issue of the tentacles and aura be analyzed in detail. We, the Secret Word Knights, are in this line of work. There shouldn't be anyone in the Holy City who knows what a hybrid demon is better than us. The bald senator immediately rejected the idea. Please allow me to reject Captain Hugo's suggestion. The follow-up verification process can be carried out in the prison, and the relevant verification report can also be submitted during the trial. Currently, I need to escort this person back to the prison. Just as the bald senator was trying to break free from Captain Hugo's grasp, he realized that an unbelievably powerful force prevented him from breaking free. Captain Hugo smiled as he gazed at the senator. According to the rules of the Supreme Charter, the captain of the 13 Knights has the same voting rights as the senators. I will initiate a vote here. Allow me, Hugo Harrison, to verify Warren Nicholas' identity on the spot. I should have the right to do so, right? The senator nodded. Yes. However, there are a total of 5 senators, including me, present in the arena. We will also participate in the vote for this temporary issue. Okay. Only then did Hugo slowly release his grip. Just like that, a temporary vote was held in the Hercules Grand Arena. All 5 senators were bound to vote against it. In other words, at least 9 or more captains were required to approve this issue before it could be passed. And Han Dong's act of transforming into a hybrid demon was witnessed by all the captains. The result of the vote seemed to be a foregone conclusion. Senator Metophis' voice expanded to the entire arena. Captains and senators who agree with Captain Hugo's suggestion, please raise your right hand. Those who do not agree, please raise your left hand. Those who do not raise their hands within 30 seconds, please consider it as abstention. The voting begins now. Chapter 580. They raised their hands to vote. Abel, who was forcibly taken away by Captain Kamon and receiving medical treatment, immediately looked at the audience and paid attention to the voting of each captain. Inside the Scarlet Knight, Blood Knight Lucius knelt on one knee beside Duchess Shea Cromwell. Captain, please trust me this once. Let Nicholas be tested on the spot. Once he's taken to prison, there's no turning back. Yes, I know. Inside the Lionheart Knights, Cass Maldini had immediately asked Grand Knight Roland to give Han Dong a chance, but the response he received was Captain Roland's cold reply. Hybrid demons cannot be kept. All of Han Dong's friends were very concerned about the current voting situation. Han Dong, however, kept his head down the whole time. He didn't seem to care much about the voting result. Instead, he looked puzzled. It seemed that there was something he couldn't figure out. The whole thing was a little strange. The bald councilman in front of him. He was the same person who had specially found him in the lounge before the finals and invited him to be a councilman candidate. Not only was there a problem with the candidate, but there were also some details that felt wrong, although the voting time was only 30 seconds. Many of the captains already had an answer in their hearts. Black Rose Knights, Luke Coden. Right hand, agree, Knights of Plague, Mograine Hathaway. Right hand, agree, Knights of the Holy Light, Olivia Christian. Left hand, objected, Behemoth Knights, Kamon Ryan. Right hand, agree, Knights of Misfortune, Great Demon. He didn't express his position for the time being. Sorcerer Knights, Jiro's Midam. Left hand, disagree, Knights of Destiny, Alex Grim Reaper. Right hand, agree, Scarlet Knights, Shea Cromwell. Right hand, agree, Hell Knights, Malone Hines H. Kazakovic. Right hand, agree, Lionheart Knights, Roland Pride of the Lion King. Left hand, disagree, Wind Knights, Jack Mason. Left hand, disagree, Steam Knights, Gary G. Travix. Left hand, disagree, Knights of the Secret Whispers, Hugo Harrison. right hand agreed at this moment. Because Demps used a special magic method to consume a large amount of mana, he sent a voice transmission to Vice Commander Archimedes of the Knights of Misfortune. Please tell the great demon leader. As long as I vote for Nicholas, I will choose to join you. On the stage, Archimedes immediately smiled. He and the great demon captain didn't care about Han Dong's problem at all. The reason why the great demon captain didn't say anything was because he guessed that they could use this point to recruit them. After receiving Archimedes' report, the great demon captain immediately raised his right hand. Just like that, the voting for the team leaders ended. The situation was terrible. Even if the great demon captain added another vote, the 13th captain's vote was 8-5. After all, there were still 5 counselors who hadn't voted yet. When all the votes were tallied, the final result was likely to be 8-10. However, in the special viewing area of the panoramic glass. However, the votes of the 4 counselors were different. 3 were against, and 1 was in favor. This scene made many people think that their eyes were playing tricks on them. It was clear that the Parliament had designed a hidden test in advance in the election, deliberately leading Han Dong to expose the characteristics of the hybrid demon. Why were there different voting opinions? In any case, the vote ratio had become 9-8. Only the bald counselor, Metaphys, who led all of this, didn't vote. The final result was likely to be a tie result. At that time, more counselors would come here to vote, and Han Dong would inevitably be taken directly to prison. But the bald counselor, Metaphys Thuzaden, who was standing in the center of the garden, slowly raised his right hand. I agree with Commander Hugo's proposal. The final result of the vote was 10-8. Commander Hugo's proposal has been approved, and Commander Hugo will personally verify Warren Nicholas's identity on the spot. If the verification result is hybrid demon, Nicholas will be directly judged. If the verification result is human, I, Metaphys, will represent the Parliament to express my sincere apology to Nicholas, a quasi-knight, and give him a special item as an apology. Now, Commander Hugo, please come forward to verify. The rest of the quasi-knights participating in the competition, please follow me out of the garden area. After the bald counselor finished speaking, he looked at Han Dong with a special gaze and then left. At this time, only Han Dong, who was present, could see a detail. When Metaphys left, he deliberately walked past Commander Hugo and lightly punched Hugo's chest with his small fist. The two also had a momentary exchange of glances. There was even a hint of a smile hidden in it. Cough, cough. Knights, counselors, and important staff of the Holy City. As I still have a lot of work to do, I will speed up the verification process slightly. If any of you, counselors or high-ranking personnel have any doubts, you can raise them on the spot. Commander Hugo directly stepped forward and chopped with his hand. Whoosh! Han Dong's entire right arm was cut off. As I have met Nicholas in the preliminaries, I am quite familiar with his aura. But now I could smell a different scent from this right arm. This arm wasn't a part of Nicholas' original body. It was just a temporary arm that had been attached to his body. According to my many years of experience in archaeology and my research on the hybrid demon slate, I guess that this quasi-knight Nicholas did something extremely dangerous during the seed-breaking period, something that almost no one in the Holy City dares to try. He did not completely kill the hybrid demon and deliberately kept the hybrid demon's consciousness for his own use. At the same time, Commander Hugo used a unique method to hypnotize and control the Scarlet Count's consciousness in the arm. Count did not even have the slightest room to resist. Creak, creak. In a moment, a large number of tentacles grew out from the pores of the arm and advanced tentacle isomerization, forming a dog head. Everyone did not see wrongly. Nicholas kept the hybrid demon's consciousness that he used as a seed breaking and injected it into a special arm, because he encountered an extremely dangerous situation in the sub-death space. He chose to graft this arm onto himself. Everyone should still have doubts in their hearts. Why can the tentacles undergo isomerization? Isn't this an ability that only mature hybrid demons have? That's right. The target of Nicholas's seed breaking was a mature hybrid demon. As soon as this was said, the whole audience was in an uproar. What? He killed a mature hybrid demon? It was horrifying. Since the establishment of the Holy City, no one had ever done it. A mature hybrid demon was far stronger than a newborn hybrid demon. Even a knight squad could be completely wiped out if they encountered a hybrid demon of this level alone. At this moment, Grand Knight Roland's voice directly came from the audience. Wait. I don't care what kind of hybrid demon this kid used as a seed breaking. What I want to know is, as a human, how can he reattach the hybrid demon's arm? Why is it not contaminated? Commander Roland's question is very good. This is also something that I will explain in detail next. The reason why Nicholas made the decision to keep the hybrid demon's consciousness is because he has the extremely rare contamination immunity attribute. This point had to start from where Warren Nicholas was born in the Samar Commoner district. When he was 4 years old, he was involved in the Black Crow incident that caused a lot of commotion at that time. I think that Mr. Black and White also saw this point and took him as his only student. The relevant information is in my hands. Chapter 581. Black Crow Incident. An evil invasion that occurred in the civilian area of Samel. A large number of civilians were involved. Due to the severe mutation of the Black Crowmen, any civilians who grew black feathers on their bodies were all executed. However, there were also a few people who were able to suppress the crow transformation and return to normal due to their own special characteristic. Captain Hugo snapped his fingers. All the leaders in the audience received a Black Crow incident information with the seal of the Adventurers Guild, the seal of the Knights Headquarters, and the seal of the Parliament. Warren Nicholas' name was mentioned in the information. Although Nicholas, who was only 4 years old, was able to resist the corrosion of the Black Crows and his body became weak. However, he passed through the Destiny Realm in such a state and successfully entered the National Royal Knight Academy. During the night training, he showed crow affinity for the first time and was able to communicate with the neutral crow in the Gain Forest. He played a great role in the Old King incident at that time. If the crow didn't protect the convoy at that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Also, as for the constitution of immunity to pollution, it has appeared in the Holy City before, and there was more than one case. All the captains and counselors should be very clear about it. Of course, Han Dong didn't know about the Black Crow incident that Captain Hugo was talking about. It could be speculated that it wasn't a temporary forgery, but it had been considered by Mr. Black and White long ago. The relevant documents had even been forged when Han Dong entered the academy. At the moment it was just borrowed by Captain Hugo. Grand Knight Roland looked at the information in his hand and didn't find any problems. Yes, Captain Hugo, please continue the verification. Okay. Since we have figured out the phenomenon of the hybrid demon and the problem of the appearance of the hybrid demon aura, Nicholas, please reattach your original arm. I will carry out the hybrid demon verification that everyone is familiar with. In the Great Betrayer incident some time ago, all the knights should have used the magnet provided by the Secret Word Knights to verify the identity of the remnants of the hybrid demons in the Holy City. Once this magnet gets close to the life outside the city, there will be a strong reaction. Coincidentally, there are still a few remnants of the previous incident left behind to be interrogated. Captain Hugo clapped his hands. Immediately, a bound remnant rose from the underground area of the battle arena. It seemed to have been specially reserved before the start of the official competition to be used for verification purposes. I'm using a type of high-purity magnet. Not only will it react when it gets close, but it will also cause the mantis demons to appear due to the homogenizing effect. Hugo took out a cobblestone-shaped earthy yellow magnet. The middle-aged man who was bound to the ground instantly revealed a ferocious expression. Wriggling veins protruded under his skin. Crackle. All of the middle-aged man's teeth fell to the ground. Then, it spat out a large number of tentacles from its mouth, unable to resist such a high-purity magnetic stone. Even the laughing arm in Hugo's hand had a strong reaction. At this moment, Captain Hugo suddenly tossed the magnet in his hand towards Han Dong. But Han Dong caught it steadily. This material is similar to the antiques I saw in the secret word nights during the preliminaries. Although I was in Captain Hugo's illusory world at that time, perhaps Captain Hugo had already appraised me during that time. There was no reaction. There was no discomfort. Nicholas, throw it here. Captain Hugo pointed at the middle-aged man who was spitting out tentacles from his mouth. Han Dong immediately threw the magnet. When the magnet collided with this person, it directly caused his human disguise to completely disintegrate, revealing an indescribable state. Captain Hugo snapped his fingers. The demonic filth immediately disappeared, as if it had been dragged into a different dimension, never to be reincarnated. With this, the proof that Nicholas is not a mantis demon is complete. This magnet will also be given to each of the captains to verify its authenticity. Finally, I would like to ask everyone to return this unstable item to me. High-purity hybrid demon magnets are also very harmful to the human body. Once the Secret Word Knight's recent work is completed, the mantis magnet will be able to fully circulate in the Holy City. Now, I will carry out the final proof, proving that Han Dong is a human. The Parliament should have kept a memory recording of what happened in the subdeath space. Counselor Metaphys, please use the latest imaging technology to display it for us. The imaging technology here was not the analysis of photoelectric signals, but the memory image playback. That was achieved through magic. Counselor Metaphys had been secretly observing the situation in the subdeath space. With the display of the memory recording, the knights, nobles, royalty, and church members who still had some doubts about Han Dong's identity were all stunned. At this moment, Captain Hugo's voice resounded throughout the entire place. Nicholas, who is heavily injured and on the verge of death, who can't even do the most basic of walking. Even if he knew that if he used the abilities of the mantis demons, he might be judged by the Parliament and questioned by the whole city. Even if he knew that forcibly moving a body full of wounds might cause irreparable side effects. Even if he knew that the female corpse monster's level was far above his, and even if he fought with his life on the line, he might not win. But when his teammate's life was threatened, he did not hesitate at all and gave the answer in an instant. This, O knight spirit, is what we celebrate. This is a true knight. What is a human? I believe that everyone here has the answer in their hearts. Captain Hugo bowed slightly. Representation, mantis demon, human. Through the above 3 points, I have completed the proof of Warren Nicholas' identity. If anyone here has any questions, please raise them. For a moment the entire place was silent. Captain Hugo's proof was flawless, and it even verified Han Dong's humanity in depth. Even Grand Knight Roland, who completely hated the mantis demons, nodded slightly, praising Nicholas' actions as a knight. The proof was complete. Captain Hugo continued, in addition, I express my understanding and approval of the Parliament's decision to add a secret test in the Knights' Assembly. We humans are on the verge of extinction. The reason why the Supreme Council was established was to pass various resolutions to minimize the danger within the Holy City. However, I hope that Counselor Metaphys will fulfill his promise. This matter has caused quite a lot of harm to Nicholas and Abel Ryan, who was forced to be involved in this matter. The people changed. The bald counselor came to the scene again. He maintained the same smiling expression as before. I'm very sorry. I, Metaphys, apologize to you on behalf of the Parliament. This item will be your compensation. The so-called compensation was not an item. It was an item that had always existed in the garden. The bald counselor pointed in the direction of the coffin in the center of the garden. The female corpse was the compensation. The female corpse that had nothing to do with the trial of the golden apple was used as a secret test target for Han Dong. Now, it was given to Han Dong as a compensation. Unfortunately, the attributes of the female corpse were exactly the same as Han Dong's left arm. Coincidence? No, it was just like the various seemingly coincidental things that happened in the garden area. This was not a coincidence. It was planned from the beginning. Perhaps this was the result that the Parliament wanted from the beginning. Nicholas, the candidate invitation still stands. I hope you will consider it carefully after the election. Thank you for your hard work. At the same time, a medical counselor arrived at the Behemoth Knights and treated Abel with a high-level medical secret technique. After that, he also gave the corresponding compensation. The displeasure on Captain Kai Meng's face immediately disappeared when he heard the word compensation. He even laughed out loud. Next, we will continue with the night election. Captain, please grade the performance of the 5 quasi-knights and give them the final ranking. During the night selection, you would be verified as a human in front of the entire holy city. This was also the best way for you to gain the recognition of the entire holy city. Of course, this is also thanks to your mentor's help. If it weren't for Mr. Black and White changing some information for you in advance, there would have been some loopholes in the verification process. Everything went smoothly. The Council's attitude towards you is the same as mine and your mentor's. Regardless of what you did in the Great Betrayer incident or how you saved your comrades without hesitation during the meeting, the Council has acknowledged the existence of your humanity. I'll need you to make up for the work that has been delayed during this period of time after you join the Knights. Also, this Metaphys is the same as you. He is also proficient in the death attribute. This sub-death space was created by him. He might not necessarily know less about death than the Grim Reaper. If you have any questions, you can consult him directly. After saying this, Captain Hugo placed one hand heavily on Han Dong's shoulder. Han Dong immediately knelt down on one knee. Thank you, Captain Hugo. Thank you, Counselor Metaphys. Captain Hugo also muttered to himself, sigh. It's not easy to find a young man who can endure hardship. It's really not easy to poach him. Han Dong could only reply with an awkward smile. 10 minutes later, the 5 students participating in the final trial had gathered in the center of the trial field. The second round of the finals, Trial of the Golden Apple, has ended. The captains have given the 5 quasi-knights a corresponding overall score. The Righteous, a Gully Charlie, ranked 5th, overall score, 8-0. Hell's Boy, Sean Nibirius, ranked 4th, overall score, 8-3. 100 Beasts, Abel Wren, ranked 3rd, overall score, 8-6. The Magician Ademps Martin, ranked 2nd, overall score, 9-0. Warren Nicholas, ranked 1st, overall score, 9-7. Hearing such a score, Han Dong could only smile helplessly. He had only participated in the Knights' Assembly with the idea of being in the bottom 10. He did not expect it to turn out like this due to various coincidences. However, the feeling of standing at the top was pretty good too. Next, let's invite the top 10 students onto the stage for the final round of the Knights' Assembly, a selection. Mia, who had received special treatment from the witch, had regained her basic mobility. When she went onto the stage again, she saw Han Dong not far away. Walala, tears immediately gushed out from her eyes. Mia learned from the witch that when her life was threatened, the one who saved her was neither the referee nor the witch. Instead, it was Han Dong who rushed onto the stage at the fastest speed and slapped the cyborg away. Because her body was still weak, Mia ran to Han Dong with great difficulty. She used all her strength to jump up and clamped Han Dong's waist with her legs. Her arms tightly hugged her man, and would not let go even if she was beaten to death. Whoa! I thought I wouldn't be able to see you again. Also, when I was resting, I heard from the witch that something big happened outside. What's going on? Mia was completely unaware of the operation of Captain Hugo's joint council. Nothing. It's just that Abel and I were beaten up. Who? Who dares to beat you? At this time, Han Dong suddenly reached out and patted Mia's head. It's okay, when the assembly is over, I'll take you outside the city to play. Mia was already scared of Han Dong's tricks. Although she was happy to hear such an answer, she still asked cautiously, Just take me, right? We're just going to be alone outside the city. You won't let me fight monsters, right? No, just the two of us. We'll stay in the manor for a few days. No one will disturb us. Mia was already very weak. When she suddenly heard the answer she had been waiting for 3 years, she was so excited that she directly snapped a string in her head. Her tongue hung by the side of her mouth, and she fainted again. As the paramedics arrived, they gave Mia emergency treatment. Han Dong raised his head and looked at the audience again. His gaze fell on the black crow that stood on the shoulder of the great plague chief without moving. Thank you, teacher. Chapter 583. The knights ranked in the top 10 don't need to perform and have a special double choice, right? That is, first, the 13 knights will show you 4 different attitudes. 1. Invitation. 2. Appreciation. 3. Recognition. 4. No feelings. The different attitudes correspond to the treatment you will receive after joining the knights, but please consider your own personality and attributes and choose the most suitable knight group for you. Next, we will proceed from the bottom to the top and have a double choice. Now, please show your attitude to Brian Greenwich. To be honest, this knight was quite embarrassed. Although he was chosen to be in the top 10, he was just a stepping stone. He was defeated by Abel at the beginning, and he didn't even have the chance to show his characteristics. Among the 13 knights, none of them gave an invitation. However, because of the matching attributes and his background as a crusader, his talent was undeniable. The Lionheart Knights, on the other hand, showed an appreciative attitude, which allowed the Greenwich family to retain some of their dignity. Without any suspense, Brian chose to join the Lionheart Knights. In the eyes of the Grand Knight, this young man who was proficient in all kinds of weapons still had great potential. If he used a completely different way to stimulate his potential, he might be able to cultivate him into a good knight. Number 9. Accursed Spider Mia Semenovich. Although Mia was also defeated in a 1v1 battle, she was defeated by a vicious method. At the same time, Mia had displayed a high level of mastery over curses and herbology, which had attracted the attention of many knight squadrons. Black Rose Knights, Misfortune Knights, Hell Knights, and Wizard God Knights all gave a appreciation attitude. There were also a lot of knights who gave too much recognition, so Mia had a lot of choices to make. However, Mia immediately turned her eyes to Han Dong beside her. Which knight group are you going to? I'll go too. Mia, you should choose the most suitable one. The place I'm going to may not be suitable for you. Besides, different knight groups won't affect our connection. Oh, Mia was depressed, but she did have her own ideas. Thinking that she would be able to spend some quality time with Han Dong after the conference, Mia no longer felt conflicted. He decisively joined the Knights of Misfortune and studied curses. 8th. All Bones Diana Epsilon. This was the quasi-knight who had fought against Han Dong alone. She had an exquisite Asian female face. She was very powerful, but she was defeated by Han Dong because of her injuries and the fact that her attributes were restrained by his. This girl's selection had long been decided internally. She was originally a newbie specially trained by the Black Rose Knight. Captain Luke Coden gave them a grand invitation and recruited them into the group. Of course, when Commander Coden mentioned that they needed to work together with Han Dong, Diana, who was hidden under the cloak, would occasionally glance at Han Dong. Of course, what she got in return was Mia's murderous gaze. 7th in order, Blacksmith Winley Austin. Little blacksmith, join my night group. We have iron drills that are more suitable for you and lava that can train your body. His bold and heavy voice resounded throughout the entire arena. In the absence of an internal determination of the Night Regiment, Captain Malone gave them a grand invitation. With such a strong defensive body and innate monstrous strength, you can choose to join my team. Here, you will receive the most complete physical training. You will also become the core pillar of the Night Squad. At the same time, Grand Knight Roland also gave them a grand invitation. Although Winley's ranking was not high, the monstrous strength and blacksmith talent that she had shown could put her in the top 5. It was a pity that she was slightly inferior in battle. The scene of the two captains giving out grand invitations to recruit people would only appear in the top 3 in the previous conferences. Captain Malone and Grand Knight Roland were also not on good terms in some aspects. When their eyes met, sparks flew in the air. However, in Winley's eyes, she already knew the answer. She had always admired the vice-captain. She wanted to be like Han Dong and have the ability to take charge of things on her own. In addition to the defensive training, she also wanted to hone her offensive skills. Moreover, there was a top-level forging room in Hell that all blacksmiths yearned to go to, Hellfire Furnace. I choose Hell Knights. When Winley made her choice, she bowed deeply to Captain Malone. After raising her head, she also glanced at the vice-captain beside her. Han Dong's voice also sounded in response, Winley, do your best. Captain Malone is very good. Okay. 6th in order, deceased, Igua Masarazzi. This was also a young man trained by the Knights of Destiny. He was the only self-refining necromancer in the Holy City. There was nothing to be confused about. He was directly recruited by Captain Alec. 5th in order, righteous, Gully Charlie. Gully, whose heart system was completely destroyed by Han Dong, was now standing on the field intact. It seemed that he only needed to replace a brand new heart to completely recover his power. It also seemed that he had some kind of unknown mechanical self-healing ability. His overall condition was better than anyone else's, because of his uniqueness and the fact that he was originally the creation of the investor. He belonged to the Uistim Knights. 4th in order, Hellboy Sean Nibirius. The reason why he was ranked 4th was very simple. Sean was a hot-tempered guy. He went on a rampage in the garden at the beginning. He lost his way in the trial of the Golden Apple, which did not suit his character at all. He had been trapped on the periphery. The many failures in this night's assembly suppressed Sean's irritable character. In the end, he was naturally recalled to the Hell Knights. Sean would receive direct guidance from Captain Malone in the future. His whole person might change a lot. 3rd in order, 100 Beast, Abel Ryan. Knowing that Abel was the grandson of Captain Keeman. At the same time, the Holy Knights and the Wind Knights gave a grand invitation. This made Captain Keeman a little unhappy, and his words were not polite at all. Forget about Jack. After all, my family's Abel is also very good as a scout. Priest, why are you joining in the fun? Cleric Olivia, the leader of the clerics, smiled. Her gentle and soothing voice echoed clearly in the minds of every knight. The beast in Abel's body, I think Captain Keeman doesn't know how to control it. Such a beast is far beyond what Abel can bear. Once it goes berserk at a certain moment, it will bring irreparable damage to Abel. I have a way to let Abel completely control the beast. Of course, I also know the importance of Abel to the Behemoth Knight. I can accept joint training. I can provide Abel Ryan with a special training program for his mental health. It depends on whether Captain Keeman is willing. Joint training, under normal circumstances, Captain Keeman would definitely not agree. However, Olivia was right. Keeman did not know how to control the beast in Abel's body. He only wanted Abel to blindly train his beastly nature and use beasts to control beasts. However, this did not eliminate the potential risk. Alright, we will discuss the details of the training rules after the conference. Abel also immediately bowed to Captain Olivia to express his gratitude. Second in order, Magician Demps Martin. I choose the Knights of Misfortune. Before the various Knight Orders made their decision, Demps directly made his choice. Since the great magician Captain voted for Han Dong, he naturally had to fulfill his promise. This choice shocked everyone. Even Demps's mentor, Lady Hera, was shocked. After all, Demps had already undergone half a year of magic training in the Sorcerer Knight. Moreover, Demps's magic talent was the highest in the past few decades. He was even secretly called the successor of the great magician, Jaros. Captain Jaros immediately sent a message to the relevant personnel. It's alright, let him go. As long as he can make the greatest contribution to the freedom of mankind, it doesn't matter where he goes. In the hall, Demps bowed deeply to Captain Jaros. Mia, who also chose Misfortune, immediately made a face at Demp. Pretty boy who seduced my husband, are you purposely going against me? Just like that, with Captain Jaros's permission and the great magician captain's grand invitation, no one questioned Demps's choice. Finally, it was Han Dong's turn to make his choice. 13 completely different paths were presented in front of him. He was about to take an important step in his life. Chapter 584. Warren Nicholas, when you registered for the meeting, you didn't report your title. Do you want to add a title now? This will be more convenient for you when you join the Knight Order and attend various night activities. Not for the time being. I want to wait until I'm done with something before adding a title. It wasn't that Han Dong forgot his title, but something important to Han Dong hadn't been done yet. For Han Dong, a title wasn't a simple code name. It had a standard. It was like teaching in a university. One had to meet certain requirements to get a title. Han Dong had high requirements for himself. If he didn't meet the requirements, he didn't deserve the corresponding title. Now, I'll briefly describe the basic information of the number 1 knight in this year's Knight Conference. Warren Nicholas. Major, Mysticism a Plague Minor. Library, Black Magic Target of Seed Destruction. Scarlet Earl, Mature Hybrid Demon. Talent Tree. Smiley Face, Note, a new type of fusion. Due to the first time he broke the seed with a mature hybrid demon, there may be some unexpected changes. Now, let's welcome the leaders. Among the 9 knights who had joined the Knight Order, several of them had received a grand invitation from one of the leaders. Abel, who was ranked 3rd, had the opportunity to be trained by 2 Knight Orders. The overall quality of this batch of graduates was also better than the previous batches. What kind of preferential treatment would Han Dong receive as the first knight? Which Knight Order would he choose? The audience was looking forward to it. The counselors had also been waiting here. As the referee, Alonso, summarized the information. One after another, the leaders had given their corresponding attitude. Black Rose Knight Order, Luke Coden gave a grand invitation, attitude. From the beginning of the conference, Coden wanted to recruit Han Dong. Moreover, Han Dong had won the Night Watcher medal during the night training. Plague Knights, Mograine Hathaway gave a grand invitation, attitude. This was without a doubt. They were both Plague Masters. Black and White were also the vice leaders of the Plague Knight. Haha. Crow's student, I'll also join. I invite you to join the Behemoth Knights and become the best partner with my grandson. Behemoth Knights, came on Ryan, gave a grand invitation. After recruiting Demps, the Knights of Misfortune, the Great Demon, also stood up and gave a grand invitation. The member of the Sorcerer Knight Regiment, Jaros Midome, lightly patted the armrest and gave a grand invitation, attitude. He gave a high degree of recognition to the black magic Han Dong had displayed in the competition. The Knights of Destiny, Alex Grim Reaper, offered a grand invitation. Within the Scarlet Knights, The Duchess stared at Nicholas on the field, her eyes flashing with an extremely rare glint of interest, especially the hybrid demon form that Han Dong had displayed during the council's test. Duchess Shea didn't mind or reject it at all. She even felt that such a gesture was very meaningful. In particular, the unique blood aura emanating from Han Dong's body fascinated the Duchess. There was no need for Blood Knight Lucius to explain. The Duchess had already given Han Dong a rather strong invitation after voting for him. The leader of the Hell Knights, Malone, invited Han Dong to join the Hell organization. The leader of the Wind Knights, Lightless Jack, also gave a grand invitation, after Han Dong had proven his innocence. Han Dong's perception ability in the Golden Apple test was quite outstanding, and he seemed to have noticed that there was something wrong with Han Dong's eyes. At this moment, the investor stood up. It seemed that his vocal cords were blocked because of too much fat. The investor needed to pull the fat on his neck with his fingers to expand his vocal cords and let his voice out smoothly. I, Gary Gade Gold, Travix, invite you, Nicholas, to join the Steam Knights. While giving you the corresponding treatment, I will also hire you as the chief researcher of the Brass Laboratory. I can provide you with a separate laboratory and 200,000 copper coins per year as research funds. You can also use it as free funds. I will also provide you with the most advanced automatic steam technology support. Whatever you want to do, I can make it happen for you. I admire you very much. The investor gave an offer that was difficult to refuse. Furthermore, he even opened his flabby arms and gave him the warmest invitation. The investor's attitude was something that the knights had never seen before. Once Han Dong joined, he would get endless wealth. Even the biological laboratory outside the city could get the maximum supply of resources and accelerate the development of the manor's technological equipment. Finally, it was the turn of the Secret Word Knights, who only had one person present. Leader Hugo wrote the word Grand Invitation on the paper with an oil pen and raised the paper to show his attitude. This, all 11 leaders are invited. Has this ever happened before? Moreover, the investor actually gave such an offer. 200,000 gold coins per year. Intense discussions broke out in the audience. It was an unprecedented grand occasion. Many knights cast envious gazes. At this moment, Han Dong spoke. First of all, I would like to thank the leaders for their kind invitation. Before I make a choice, I would like to thank the leaders who have always taken care of me. Thank you, the Great Plague Leader, for giving me the guidance of dual cultivation. Thank you, Leader Malone, for deliberately letting me go in the Destiny space and saving my life in the Great Betrayer incident. Thank you, Leader Alex, for taking care of me in the underground area. I am also willing to share some scientific and technological matters in private. Thank you, Investor. I have already made a decision during the conference. I will join the Secret Word Knights and conduct an in-depth investigation of the origin of the hybrid demons. I will provide the necessary information and backup help to the leaders who trust me. The audience was silent for a moment. In fact, many people who saw through the unexpected events of this conference had also guessed this result. After a while, all kinds of discussions quietly spread in different audience areas. This isn't the first time, right? I remember that last year, 3 years ago, and many of the first place of the night conference seemed to have been abducted by Leader Hugo. By the way, the puppet envoy, Knight Charlie, was also the top scorer in the conference 10 years ago. What's so good about the Secret Word Knights? The discussions were just discussions. Since Han Dong had made his choice, then the matter had been settled. Leader Malone sat in his seat and gave up the idea of bringing toiletries to block the door of Death's house tonight. Instead, he was prepared to take Death for a drink and a chat to talk about private matters. Hugo Harrison, we have another great general. However, I have to admit that Leader Hugo has special means. The Secret Words Knights, who have never participated in any expedition activities and rarely conducted any investigations, will do something different in the upcoming great expedition, won't they? Chapter 585. In this year's night election, a total of 193 graduates successfully joined the 13 night regiments. After the election, there would be no restrictions on the new knights. They could go to the night headquarters at any time to receive basic night equipment and corresponding night emblems. The specific time to join and participate in formal training would be arranged by the night regiments themselves. The stricter Lionheart Knight Regiment and Hell Knight Regiment only gave the newcomers 3 days to rest. The more relaxed Steam Knight Regiment and Doom Knight Regiment would give the newcomers a week to a month to adjust their state. In short, once they successfully graduated, they would only be under the management of the corresponding Knight Regiment. It was important to note that the Secret Word Knights only recruited 2 graduates in this year's meeting. One was Warren Nicholas, who received the attention of the whole city and won the first place. The other was a library graduate who was ranked relatively low and did not have strong combat power, but his memory seemed to be particularly good and he could quickly draw a large number of magic arrays. According to Captain Hugo, once he came to report to the Night Regiment, there would be a lot of complicated work for Han Dong. Considering Han Dong's special experience and performance in the election, there would be a lot of things to deal with after the election, so Han Dong was given a week to rest. Otherwise, Captain Hugo would have dragged Han Dong to report to the headquarters as soon as the conference ended, and started working in 996 bald mode. The next day, Night Headquarters. Han Dong was here to receive the basic night equipment and emblems. This is your night equipment and emblems. Please keep them well. The emblems were naturally the magnifying glass and question mark of the Secret Word Knights. When attending various special occasions, receiving night missions, or leaving the city, the emblems were necessary proof of identity. As for the night equipment, Han Dong only received a set of archaeology outer clothing made from magic pattern leather. It was a gray and white single-breasted leather jacket, a pair of long pants with good insulation, and a pair of shoes that would not make a sound when walking, so as not to disturb the work of others in the Night Regiment. The outer clothing had a certain degree of pollution resistance to avoid contact with some unknown cultural relics outside the city, which would cause mental pollution. The most important feature was that such an outfit had the mental stimulation characteristic. With a cup of coffee every day, the clerks could work for 10 hours without any reduction in efficiency. Compared to the armor that most of the knights were equipped with, the happy overtime suit was really low class. Although he had yet to report to the Secret Words Knights, Han Dong was already an official knight. To be honest, Han Dong didn't reject the clerical job in the Secret Word Knights at all, especially after he heard about the hybrid demon, Slate, from Hugo. Han Dong was personally very interested in any research that involved unknown things. Moreover, Han Dong had learned about Hugo's background from Mr. Black and White in advance. He had also seen Hugo's methods at the conference. This weakest night regiment that was ranked at the bottom all year round must have an unspeakable secret. Meanwhile, Mia also received the basic equipment of the Knights of Misfortune from another reporting point. It was a dark-colored close-fitting light armor. It not only maintained the characteristics of the armor, but also highlighted Mia's figure. "Darling, let's hurry out of the city for our honeymoon." Mia had already imagined all kinds of wonderful scenes of the two of them. She couldn't help but clamp her legs together and reach out to hold Han Dong. "When will your night regiment officially start training?" Deputy Commander Archimedes gave me 2 weeks to rest and gave me a semi-freestyle learning method so that I can continue to keep in touch with Teacher Witch. So I can always be with my darling. Mia had already changed into the dark-colored light armor and was heading to the city gate with Han Dong in a special crow carriage. However, just as the carriage reached the civilian area, Han Dong sensed something and ordered the carriage to stop. "What's wrong?" Mia was in a state of fear, afraid that such a great opportunity would be ruined by some accident. Someone is following us. Upon hearing that someone dared to ruin their honeymoon trip, Mia pulled out her demon blade and was about to jump out of the carriage. However, she was immediately stopped by Han Dong. They should have been following us since we left the knight's headquarters. Let me take a look. Intuition told Han Dong that the target of the stalker was very clear. They were coming for him. A carriage that looked ordinary but was actually embedded with a powerful steam system was parked by the roadside 50 meters away. The door was open. She took the initiative to signal Han Dong to get in and talk. Mia, come with me. Be honest. We'll leave the city after this matter is settled. It won't take long. Oh, Mia put away her demon blade. She didn't know if it was because she had been tricked by Han Dong too many times, but she felt that this honeymoon trip was going to be ruined again. They stepped into the carriage. The exterior of the carriage looked like an ordinary wooden carriage, but the interior was full of orderly metal lines. At the same time, there was a gear mark of the Steam Knights on the back. A well-dressed, middle-aged man wearing a noble's wig was sitting in the carriage. Even though he was wrapped in noble's clothes, it still couldn't hide this person's burly figure. Mr. Newton. The stalker was the deputy commander of the Steam Knights, Congreve Newton. After knowing this person's identity, Mia immediately calmed down. The witch was dissatisfied with Mr. Black and White. When she was alone with Mia, her beloved disciple, she often mentioned that the Holy City would still function normally without Mr. Black and White. This was because Mr. Black and White wasn't the only wise person in the Holy City. This man who followed his patron and handled all the affairs of the Steam Knights was also recognized as a wise person in the Holy City. Although the possibility of Mia meeting this person was very small, the witch still warned Mia to be careful of this man. Warren Nicholas, before you leave the city, I have a few things to discuss with you on behalf of Mr. Patron. Okay. According to Mr. Patron's and my plan, this year's night conference should have been first place so that we can fully promote the STEAM technology human body transformation to all night orders. But because of you, we had to postpone this plan. Of course, it was also because of you that we discovered some shortcomings of this technology. My patron is also very interested in you, so he asked me to collect information about you in private. As luck would have it, I discovered something very interesting. Han Dong didn't say anything and just listened quietly. Since 3 years ago, you have bought a large number of construction materials and medicinal materials in installments. The purchase interval is about 1 to 3 months. Combined with your personal characteristics, it is speculated that you are building some kind of large-scale biological laboratory. Such a large biological laboratory can't be built on the second floor of the Holy City or above. It can only exist in the civilian area. But I didn't find out your land use rights in the civilian area. In addition, you rarely go in and out of the civilian area. Your family has also moved away. Therefore, Mr. Patron and I suspect that your laboratory may not be in the city. Chapter 586. Yesterday. The night election had just ended. Han Dong immediately returned to the mystery branch to meet with Mr. Black and White. The conversation mainly talked about the special arrangements in the night election. Of course, it also mentioned Commander Hugo's means. Mr. Black and White only said one sentence. The people that Hugo wants will basically be roped in by him through various means. Soon, the topic was shifted to Han Dong's personal problems. This year's night election made you a public figure known by the whole city. At least 2 commanders have a special interest in you. One is the Duchess. The other is the investor. The former is not too big of a problem. If they find you, they can deal with it on their own. As for the latter, very few people in the Holy City directly reject their investor. But you first ruined the investor's plan for the cyborgs and rejected his grand invitation in front of everyone. Although you took the initiative to cooperate in the end and slightly saved the situation, the investor will inevitably find you in private. His attitude will be very tough. It is very troublesome to offend the investor. Especially in the steam nights, there is a person who is no weaker than me in terms of strategy. Once they find you, you will need to carefully consider every decision. Try to stick to the investor's thoughts as much as possible, even if it means exposing some of your secret. The investor is a businessman. As long as it is beneficial to him, he will help you. You should know what I mean. Yes. The camera cut back. Yes. My laboratory is built outside the city. Just like the information disclosed in the night election. I have maintained contact with the neutral Crowmen tribe. I can use the Crowmen tribe as labor to build an unrestricted laboratory outside the city. Many biological experiments can be carried out directly, and there are more biological materials outside the city than in the Holy City. Newton seemed to be satisfied with Han Dong's answer. Well, the investor admires your research on biological technology. This is also a relatively weak subject in the Holy City. Maybe with the help of your research, we can further improve the prosthesis. I wonder if I can go with you to the laboratory outside the city? If I approve it, we can establish a preliminary cooperation plan. The financial power of our patron can save you a lot of trouble. We can easily get some of the materials that are difficult to get. Sure. With Mr. Black and White's warning, Han Dong agreed without hesitation. Furthermore, during the conversation, Han Dong could feel an intuitive power from Mr. Newton. If one were to say that this person and Black White belonged to the wise men of the Holy City. Mr. Black and White was more of a soft wise man, while Mr. Newton was more of a hard wise man. Newton tapped his watch and said, "Let's use my carriage. It can save us some time. My time is precious." All right. For a moment, the steam-powered carriage reached a terrifying speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour and rushed out of the city. Inside the carriage, Mia didn't say a word because of the witch's warning. But because the world between the two of them had been destroyed, Mia lowered her head and gritted her teeth the whole time. "Don't worry, I won't take too much time. My time is quite precious." These words shocked Mia and she immediately lost all of her anger. The carriage sped through the forest. There was no need for Han Dong to give directions. It went straight to the Stuart Manor area. It seemed that Newton already knew where Han Dong's laboratory was. Caw-caw, because they smelled Han Dong's scent in the carriage, the crows immediately moved aside. Several crowmen elders also came to greet them. However, as soon as Newton stepped off the carriage, a wave of energy spread out. The crowmen elders were so scared that their feathers stood at a 45 degrees angle. However, Newton's vision didn't stop at the manor or the crowmen at all. After getting off the carriage, he only stared at the hands on his watch. "Let's go directly to the laboratory. My time is quite precious." "All right." Han Dong signaled the crowmen with his eyes to look after the carriage, then headed to the underground laboratory through the nearest secret passage. He stared at the living cultivation cabins that had been optimized by Han Dong, and the neatly arranged cables, transport tubes, pressure gauges, and some living eyes that were used for monitoring, which were directly connected to Dr. Swollen. Newton nodded slightly, expressing his approval of the laboratory's design, but it wasn't enough. "There's nothing to see in the outer laboratory. Take me directly to the core laboratory. My time is quite precious." When he led Mr. Newton to the core laboratory, because of the strong aura, Dr. Swollen, who was in the middle of a brain implant experiment, was shocked. Because he had officially become a hybrid demon, Dr. Swollen's brain had shrunk to the size of a normal person. Because the brain needed a large amount of oxygen to obtain energy, Dr. Swollen also removed his skull and deliberately exposed his brain to the air to activate the mitochondria in his brain cells to efficiently convert oxygen. This allowed the doctor to maintain his efficient working mode at all times. At the same time, the gear embedded in the doctor's brain, the product of the old King M.O., could also be clearly seen. This kind of brain structure immediately attracted Newton's attention. Without any trace of hostility toward the hybrid demons outside the city, Mr. Newton bowed politely to the doctor. Hybrid demon. Your brain is very interesting. Can you make a slice for me? If it's done well, I can add a little magic gear. They had just greeted each other, and now he wanted to ask for a slice of his brain. No one would feel good about this. Dr. Swollen touched his head and was a little reluctant. Here. Following Han Dong's words, the doctor immediately cut off a small piece of his head. There were 2 miniature gears embedded in it that were rotating. A very good biological laboratory. Mr. Newton, who took the slice, gave a high evaluation of the laboratory. At the same time, he placed a prepared contract, temporary experimental cooperation agreement, BASIC, on the table. This is the preliminary cooperation agreement set by the investor. Once it's signed, the investor will strictly treat your laboratory outside the city with confidentiality. Even if someone in the Holy City wants to investigate, they absolutely won't be able to find any clues. If the cooperation goal is reached within the limited time, we can further deepen our cooperation. Just as Han Dong was about to examine the agreement, caw. A crow arrived here along the secret passage. Sir, it seems that because of the smell you left in the forest, something came to find you. The 1,000 Feet tribe, which had no signs of activity for half a year, created a large army through their super reproductive ability. There are more than 10 hybrid demons. They have gathered all their forces and are gradually surrounding the manor. How many 1,000 feet are there in total? I'm afraid there can be up to 100,000 at this moment. Mr. Newton's finger fell on a clause in the agreement. The Steam Knights will provide a certain amount of protection for the laboratory outside the city. Since I'm here, if you sign the agreement now, I can help you repel the insects in the Gain Forest. Chapter 587. If this was in the past. 100,000 monsters and a dozen newborn hybrid demons trying to invade the manor and seize the title deed. It would be a very troublesome matter. Han Dong would most likely ask for help from Newton. Mr. Newton, I still have to think about the preliminary cooperation agreement. Please wait here for a moment, I won't take up too much of your precious time. Doctor, have a good chat with Mr. Newton about the future experimental plans and the research projects that are currently in progress. Okay. Han Dong immediately pulled Mia to the surface. Before the reckless 1,000-legged creatures could fully invade the manor, he covered the entire Stuart Manor with the moving title deed, buzz, when the 1,000-legged creatures fully invaded. They didn't arrive at the Crowman's manor, but at a scarlet manor surrounded by black iron fences, with a blood gargoyle standing every 5 meters. The servants who were originally in the manor all revealed their vampire fangs. At the same time, the blood descendants who had completed the first phase of the experiment were rushing out of the laboratory at the fastest speed. A type of ghoul with the blood bat attribute was more powerful than the average blood descendant. The barons living in the main house all appeared. Of course, Han Dong had also pulled the Crowman Elder from Stuart Manor into this battle as well, to serve as the core of this defensive battle. Since they were currently outside the city and in his own territory, Han Dong no longer had any concerns, because he felt the power of the hybrid demons in the conference. Now, Han Dong once again used this extraordinary power. Grayish tentacles overflowed from the surface of Han Dong's right arm. His eyes locked onto the enemy. The dogs kept barking. A terrifying dog head with many eyes, with the ability to extend infinitely, shot directly at the 1,000-legged creatures. Passing through the 1,000-legged creatures in front, the target was quite clear. Opening its incomparably huge and terrifying mouth, dozens of tentacles wriggled between the canine teeth. With just one bite, An elder holding more than 10 self-made weapons was bitten to pieces. The invasion of the tentacles and the grinding of the canine teeth quickly killed the elder. Kill as many as come. If any of them are still alive, they can be used as research subjects in the laboratory. The majestic voice of the Overlord reverberated in the minds of every invader. Even this group of simple-minded, thousand-legged monsters showed a certain degree of fear. Moreover, Han Dong's current terrifying posture, which was like Count's, had also greatly increased the power of the Scarlet Manor. Half an hour later, Han Dong changed into a brand new suit and returned to the basement. Newton was listening to Dr. Swollen talk about the later development of the laboratory and nodded from time to time. "Let's continue our discussion." His expression was normal, as if it was just a small matter. Han Dong took the agreement and examined the terms. Although on the surface both sides had equal benefits, and Han Dong had even gained more. However, he could see the investors' desire to dominate from some of the clauses. If the cooperation deepened in the future, these hidden clauses might cause Han Dong to slowly become the investor's personal experimenter. "Can you make some slight changes to these two conditions? I still want to ensure the absolute independence of the laboratory and myself. As for the supply of research materials, we can use the transaction model. I will provide you with valuable biological research materials. You will give me the corresponding materials and convenient services. Mr. Newton, do you think this is okay?" "Well, it's not bad. I gave a high evaluation of the laboratory you built. The investor will agree to a certain extent to change the treaty. Then, it's settled." Newton rewrote an agreement on the spot for Han Dong to sign. There was no threat or coercion throughout the process. "Let me ask you one last time. Are you willing to sell this Dr. Hybrid Demon under you? I can personally use the 500,000 copper coins of the Steam Knight's liquidity to trade with you directly. If the price is not satisfactory, we can still negotiate. As you know, the underground area is now fully open to the public. The value of copper coins has nearly doubled. With sufficient funds, you can buy many treasures in the underground area." Han Dong quickly pulled the doctor to his side and put a hand on the doctor's shoulder. "The doctor is not my servant, but a good friend who has always followed me. Please understand, Mr. Newton." "Okay." Seeing Han Dong refuse, Newton did not insist or show any displeasure. He looked at his watch and did not stop at all. Then, he took the carriage back to the city. Time was very important to Newton. This person is so dangerous. During this period of contact with Newton, he felt that he was more similar to Mr. Black and White. Han Dong could not guess Newton's fundamental thoughts at all. He could not distinguish whether Newton's various actions were his own will or just following orders. Steam Knights, in the treasury. The investor was drowning himself in coins, jewelry, and precious materials. Such a bath of treasures could enhance the investor's strength and let him obtain a comfort beyond the pool of wine and forest of meat. After a while, Newton arrived. He used the memory image technology to show his contact with Nicholas today. The life technology in the Holy City has not developed at all. This kind of technological support that is beyond the times can never come from the hybrid demons. This Nicholas must carry secrets that have never been recorded in the data. First, maintain the cooperation with him. Later, try to slowly dig out his secret. Such a biologist must be used well. I believe that you, Newton, have a better way to deal with it than I do. Well, Mr. Investor, please rest quietly. You are the core figure of the great expedition. The small episode passed. Because of the departure of the interferer, Mia finally waited for the two people's world that she had dreamed of day and night. In the Lord's bedroom, such an opportunity did not come easily. In addition, Han Dong was the first to rush to the arena to save her at the conference. Mia became a little shy when such an opportunity came. By the time Mia had finished washing herself, Even her 6 spider legs had been scrubbed clean by her. She wrapped a bath towel around herself and sat on the big soft bed. She gently leaned her head on Han Dong's shoulder. "Dear, the initiative did not change." Mia turned her head and slowly leaned towards Han Dong. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed. It reflected a terrifying life form floating outside the window of the bedroom. A woman with 4 palms covering her eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. She was deprived of her senses by staring. She ignored the material of the window. Mother entered the room in a floating manner. "Has your night's assembly ended?" "Yes. We have followed your instructions. After Mia became an official knight, we took her out of the city to accept the full activation of the insect adherent. Well, if she is activated before the conference, her characteristics outside the city will be easily exposed." He didn't know who it was that had cast a sealing curse on this little spider when it was still in its infancy, which had greatly restricted its development. Once activated, it may take a week or even longer to adapt. You must keep an eye on her. Chapter 588. Insect Adherent. It was a special life form outside the city that was independent of evil and monsters. They were more complete and rare. See Volume 4. Life Outside the City, Part 2. Mia's existence was special among the insect adherents. She didn't show too many characteristics of life outside the city, nor was she polluted. Overall, she was more like a human, because of Demp's recommendation. Mia was able to break the seed perfectly with the help of her mother Jaeger. Jaeger's mother also found out that Mia was different. When she was alone with Han Dong, she talked about Mia in detail. The reason why Han Dong let Mia stick to him like this was partly because of the potential that Mia had and the special nature of being an insect adherent. At present, in the Lord's bedroom in the Stuart Manor, Lady Jaeger personally came. Because of the sealing of the sensory domain, even the crowman elder who also lived in the castle didn't sense the invasion of foreign creatures. She touched Mia's forehead with one hand and slowly absorbed the curse seal inside. Using the larva of the motherlode curse spider to break the seed is really suitable for her. The battle in the night selection also stabilized her talent tree and gave her the ability to control insects. I'm only removing the seal of the main heart. I've kept most of the subsidiary seals in case this little spider can't suppress the insect and cause an irreversible rampage. Such a special insect adherent can provide you and my son with great assistance at certain moments. Moreover, having an insect follower in your team will save you a lot of trouble in the future. Otherwise, I wouldn't take the risk to come to your manor. Thank you, Lady Jaeger. There's a disgusting strong aura left in your manor. It seems that a special guest came today. Will he reveal your secret? He's just a merchant, Linley said. That's good. Caw. Caw. Lord. You haven't eaten for 7 days. A week passed. In front of Han Dong's bedroom door, there was already a lot of food piled up. In the past week, Han Dong had never opened the door to take any food, and no sound transmissions received any response. However, the crowmen could clearly sense the presence of their lord. They reckoned that the lord was probably having a unique training session with the tall female knight, so no one dared to break the door and disturb them. Time dragged on. Considering that the lord had said that he would be out of the city for a week, today happened to be the deadline. The elders decided to let the Dozier Crow, who was closest to Han Dong, deliver the meal. If the lord still did not open the door, the Dozier Crow would use the spare key to check the situation inside. After all, in the eyes of the elders, even if there was a certain process of reproduction between the opposite sex, it wouldn't last for 7 days. The Dozier Crow was scared witless the entire time. It was afraid that it would make Han Dong unhappy and turn it into a grilled crow. Creak, he opened the door very slowly. The moment the door was slightly opened, many small spiders with purple patterns crawled out. The Dozier Crow hurriedly used its feathers to protect itself from being injected with poison. What is this? Through the door, he saw that the Lord's room was filled with dense spider webs. Slightly different from ordinary spider silk, these silk threads were like a kind of vascular tissue with fluff, and the whole body was emitting a purple light, completely illuminating the room. In the depths of the spider web, which was inside the room, there seemed to be a big spider hugging Han Dong. The situation was very dangerous. Just as the Dozier Crow took out its rare courage and wanted to break in to rescue the Lord, Han Dong's telepathic message echoed in his mind. Get out. I'm fine, hurry up and close the door. Gah. The Dozier Crow hurriedly closed the door again. Although it was scolded, it was very happy that it didn't have to fight the dangerous spider, and the Lord was fine. In the depths of the spider web, it took an entire week. Mia had changed from a completely berserk 8-legged poisonous spider to a human form with 8 arms. Her consciousness was also slowly recovering, but the huge silk sack behind her had not disappeared. The real purpose of curse lifting. It was to let Mia be able to suppress the worm in her body on her own, instead of continuing to rely on the curse seal imposed by others to suppress it. Only by truly controlling the body could the possibility of berserk and worm transformation be minimized. At the same time, it could also maximize Mia's own ability, so that her comprehensive attributes could be improved to a higher level. 7 days. Mia also enjoyed enough of the two of them. Even if her initial consciousness was not very clear, under her senses, she could always feel Han Dong's embrace and warmth. Thank you, you are the only worm adherent in the holy city who can maintain the human form. According to the book, worm adherent is a rare species outside the city. It is extremely dangerous, and most of them were recruited by the old king to become special hybrid demons under their command. When the great expedition comes, the knights will inevitably encounter the terrifying worm adherent outside the city. At that time, Mia, you may play a more important role than the captain. Okay, Mia didn't want to go so far. She didn't even want to participate in the great expedition. She just wanted to stay with Han Dong. I have to go back and report today. You continue to stay in the manor and recuperate until you completely return to your human form. Can't you accompany me? It's not good to ask for leave on the first day of becoming a knight. Besides, I've been with you for 7 days. Take a good rest and come back to me when you return to the city. Okay. The crow carriage specially picked him up. Han Dong rushed back to the holy city as soon as possible and tried to report to the secret word knights before sunset. It was completely similar to his experience in the dream. The headquarters of the secret word knights was neither in the noble district nor in the chaotic and mysterious underground area. Instead, it was built on the ordinary second floor. From hundreds of meters away, one could see the dark gray building on the deepest street. It was 5 stories tall. However, such a building looked quite strange. It felt like the building was upside down. The doors and windows were in the opposite direction, and the rooftop was connected to the ground. However, when Han Dong approached the deepest street where the secret word knights were located, a strange feeling swept through his body. Mr. Black and White's personal carriage was also in front of the intersection and could not continue forward. Just as Han Dong was about to step into the deepest street from the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a bright yellow iron mailbox on the side of the intersection. In an inconspicuous position on the side of the mailbox, there was a small question mark. There's something in the mailbox. Han Dong showed the secret word knight emblem that he had received. Clang, the mailbox opened. Inside was a radio that emitted a strange aura. A product of the Destiny space? It's between a dead object and a living object. The radio suddenly threw out a riddle. If you know me, you want to share me. If you share me, I will disappear. Who am I? Secret. Han Dong immediately gave the answer. Welcome to the secret word knights. For a moment, the structure of the deepest street changed. Chapter 589. Such a secretive setting isn't any weaker than the other night orders, with the intersection where Han Dong was at as the corner of the cube. The surrounding streets were folded in space. Finally, it was folded into a cube space. The dark gray building where the secret word knights were located happened to be at the top of the cube. The dark gray building that was originally inverted also returned to normal because of this. Unlike the situation in Inception, the direction of gravity here would not change because of stepping on the wall. At the same time, flying was completely prohibited. Han Dong needed to climb to the first-floor door of the gray building. With the help of the G-virus, sticky fleshy tissues shot out from his left and right hands and quickly climbed to the first floor of the gray building. Using his left hand, he hung his body at the main entrance of the first floor. Ring, ring, ring. He rang the doorbell. Not long after, light footsteps came from inside. The person who opened the door was a bald young man with a pen hanging from the corner of his mouth. His collar was stained with ink, and he had serious dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he had worked overtime for more than 10 days and was severely sleep-deprived. The young man did not care about his image at all. "You are the second newcomer, right? What time is it now? You only came to report." "Sorry, I was delayed by something." "Go directly to the commander. I don't have time to lead the way for you now. You only need to walk in a straight line. Don't take any left or right forks to find the commander. I heard that you caused quite a commotion at the meeting. You should be able to find the commander's office on your own. You only need to remember the keyword, straight line. Once you mix into left or right, you may be lost forever." "Thank you, Senior." "Don't say thank you verbally. Hurry up and join us. Help us share some of the work." After the transmission, the knight seemed to be walking slowly. However, every time Han Dong blinked, he would teleport a certain distance and soon disappear. Walk straight down. The passage in front of Han Dong was covered with a red carpet. It was only 20 meters long. There were only 2 paths at the end to choose from, left and right. However, there was a portrait of a man hanging on the wall at the end. The man's eyes seemed to have something else. This is the Penrose Stairs? The central library of the library has such a structure. In the man's eyes, there was a simple 4-sided staircase of Penrose, as if there was a special meaning that he wanted to convey through the image in his eyes. There was nothing strange about the painting itself, nor was there any mechanism set up. No matter how Han Dong fiddled with it, there was only a wall in front of him. From the door to the portrait, it's only a 20-meter-long passage. It's like you can only walk in a straight line. The problem was space. The headquarters of the Secret Word Knights was located in a folded space. It was reasonable for the space inside the building to be more complicated. The Nye was a reverse image. The Penrose staircase was a cycle. Combined with the structure of the gray building itself, the so-called linear space problem should be. Han Dong turned around and walked back to the entrance. Then, he turned around and walked back to the portrait at the end. Just like that, the cycle repeated 4 times. Han Dong's guess was very simple. Every time he walked back and forth in the corridor, it was equivalent to going up 1 floor in the gray building. From the outside, the gray building had a total of 5 floors. Therefore, a total of 4 trips was equivalent to reaching the top floor of the building, which was also Captain Hugo's office. Should be right. After going back and forth 4 times, Han Dong returned to the entrance again. He reached out and turned the cold doorknob. In front of him was Captain Hugo's office. It was also the most mysterious office in the Holy City. Its secrecy and the confidential documents it contained were comparable to the deepest archives of the Parliament. Excluding the communication time, the net time spent was 1 minute and 53 seconds. It's a pity that you're 2 seconds slower than Charlie. Otherwise, you would have broken the record. Charlie LeBlanc Bermanchev, the secret word knight who easily defeated the Hell Kid in the night conference. Like Han Dong, He was a master of mysticism and a master of puppet stitching. He was the first person in the election 10 years ago. Unlike Han Dong, he was not the only one. Back then, Charlie had won first place in a crushing manner. I'm sorry, Captain Hugo. I wasted a lot of time outside the city. I've made you wait. It's fine as long as you're here today. This is a rookie handbook for the Secret Word Night. You have 1 day to finish reading it. The headquarters of the Secret Word Knights has another name, the Secret Library. All the confidential files in the Holy City, 80% of the original manuscripts, and a large number of backup documents are stored here. Therefore, such complicated spatial means are needed to ensure the confidentiality and safety of every archive room. The confidential files are only handed over to us for convenience by the Supreme Council. Our real tasks are mainly divided into 2 aspects. 1. Decipher the hybrid demon slate. 2. Guard the foreign objects. Because the Great Expedition is coming, the task of deciphering the hybrid demon slate is very important. At the same time, we also need to organize and gather a large number of confidential documents and strictly select the knights who can go on the expedition and the knights who stay behind. At present, you've just joined the group and only understood the question of up and down in the secret library. The question of left and right is 100 times, 1,000 times more complicated. You need to use the Rookie Handbook to slowly familiarize yourself with the structure of the secret library. You need to be able to reach the corresponding archive room within a minute. At the same time, you also need to understand the most basic classification system in the secret library. You need to understand the areas that people of different levels can enter and the confidential files and foreign objects that people of different levels can come into contact with. Okay. Han Dong didn't find it cumbersome at all. Instead, he found it rather interesting. This was the place that he wanted to come to. Even without Captain Hugo's help, Han Dong might have chosen this place. Captain Hugo pointed at the documents on the table that were half a meter thick. For the rest of the day, in addition to learning the Rookie Handbook, you also need to review these investigation reports given by the Night Squad after they conducted investigations outside the city 30 to 35 years ago. Write down the contents of the reports and the names of the suspicious knights in the notebook. Write down a short inference. At the same time, you need to attach the reference number of the document, as well as the specific number of pages and lines. Yes, also this is your office key. When you're done with these things and have finished reading the Rookie Handbook, come find me. At that time, we'll talk about the female corpse that the counselor gave you. Okay. When talking about the female corpse, Han Dong was slightly shocked. However, with Captain Hugo's help, he might be able to make use of the female corpse to the greatest extent. At that time, I also want to talk to Captain about the matter of true fate. Do everything I say within 24 hours and meet the standards, then I'll talk to you. No problem. Chapter 590. Newcomer's Handbook. Secret Word Knights Special Edition. The Secret Word Knights were a special reserve force among the 13 Knights. They rarely went out of the city to investigate and rarely participated in expedition activities. They only secretly provided information and guarded dangerous secret. The headquarters of the Secret Word Knights was also known as the Secret Museum. According to the different work directions, the Secret Word Knights were generally divided into 2 types: Frowny Face Secret Keeper and the Secret Dispeller. In the early stages of joining the Knights, the newcomers would only be required to deal with some public or confidential documents. After working for a period of time, the department head would assign the newcomers to different work directions based on the relevant inferences given during the review of documents. 1. Secret Museum Space. The Secret Museum was divided into up and down and left and right through spatial rearrangement. The rules of up and down were relatively simple and were omitted here. The design and construction of left and right used the variable function cycle structure. Every half an hour, the left and right space would undergo irregular changes. The numbers for reference were hidden in the paintings hanging in the passage. The number inside the painting represented the variable x. The corresponding function structure at different times of the month was as follows: f(x) equals y. Please imagine the detailed function structure. It changes every half an hour, a total of 48 functions. Every month, new functions would be used to replace the old ones. Therefore, the number of the rooms in the secret museum would be represented by L floor, y dependent variable, room number. When y equals 0, it was the initial staircase passage. Note: in order to ensure confidentiality, there are hidden variables and multiple function relationships that are not directly shown in the handbook. Please deduce by yourself. 2. Staff level and corresponding secret zone. The 5 positions were as follows. Level 1, white. Only allowed to come into contact with and deal with general public and confidential document. Usually, newcomers who had just joined the Knights. Level 2, gray. Allowed to deal with confidential document. Able to indirectly come into contact with foreign objects or help decipher some simple text through the stone slab. Usually, they were secret keeper or secret dispeller who had just been classified. Level 3, blue. With the permission of the council, they were allowed to deal with top secret document. At the same time, they could officially come into contact with foreign objects that were less dangerous and participate in the deciphering of hybrid demon stone slabs as an ordinary member of the team. Level 4, red. Can directly deal with top secret and below document. You are allowed to enter the black zone to participate. Come into contact with, manage, and suppress foreign objects that are in an unstable state or decipher some hybrid demon tablets that may induce instant corruption. Level V, black. Enjoy the right to move without any restrictions. Their actions are directly approved by the Senate. The Secret Words Knights will evaluate the performance of knights of different ranks every month. Those who fail will be demoted or kicked out of the Secret Words Knight. Those who pass will remain in their ranks, but those who perform well will be given bonus points. When the score reaches the next level, the permission level will be automatically upgraded. Note: before reaching level 3, it still needs to undergo a security review from the Parliament. There were also a lot of things to take note of inside the secret museum, as well as measures to deal with emergencies. The detailed information about the foreign object and the slate was not mentioned in the newcomer's handbook. He needed to wait until Han Dong finished the basic work and officially became a mystery keeper or mystery solver before he could learn more about it. In order to avoid affecting work efficiency and the flow of confidential information, even the lowest level Secret Word Knight had their own independent office in the secret library. On the key that Captain Hugo passed to Han Dong, there was a serial number written on it. First, he returned to the first floor through up and down. Han Dong then used the corresponding function given in the handbook to match the current time period to deduce. During his first exploration of to left and left, he also discovered that there was a problem with the paintings in the passage. Under certain circumstances, he needed to deduce the number of independent variables through the contents of the paintings. At the same time, there were also problems that were not explained in the handbook when he made the left and right choices. As a result, Han Dong spent a long time at a certain node. It took him 1.5 hours to discover the related rules of the left and right increment and matrix changes. Han Dong was quite good at such non-linear mathematical problems in university. This way, Han Dong completely understood the problem of left and right in the secret library. He was able to do what Commander Hugo had requested, which was to reach any room in the secret library with a serial number within 10 minutes. Of course, when Han Dong was exploring the left and right side of the corridor, he discovered that some of the walls were marked with gray and blue lines. A newcomer like Han Dong did not have the right to enter such a restricted area. Is this my office? It was a small enclosed room of 10 square meters. There was only a small window that looked out at the folded street outside. A miniature fireplace was attached to the wall for heating. Coffee beans and a self-made grinder were placed on the desk. There was unlimited access to coffee beans to ensure efficiency during office hours. The base of the kerosene lamp could be inserted into the corner of the desk. There was a kerosene supply port inside, which could also provide unlimited light. Other than the desk and chairs, the only furniture left in the room was a bed. Moreover, there was a crazy iron notice hanging at the head of the bed. Before you sleep, please think about whether you have completed all your work today seriously. As expected, it is an oppressive management style. It should be due to the lack of manpower. Knights who could successfully graduate from the Knight Academy all had the desire to go outside the city and fight the hybrid demons. Very few people would choose to join such a clerical knight group. Moreover, the overall score of the Secret Whispers Knight group was the lowest among the 13 knight groups. As a result, the number of graduates who joined each year was very low. Some knights who could not handle it would even choose to leave the group during their internship. As a result, the knight group did not have enough manpower and had a lot of work to do. Only through the high-intensity work of 996 could it be possible to complete the work given by the Holy City on time. However, the document processing was only the surface work of the Secret Whispers Knight group. From what I know, this place is more interesting than any other knight group. Han Dong, who was still energetic, placed the half-meter thick document on the desk, lit the kerosene, and started his first work. There was no need for coffee. Once Han Dong came into contact with this kind of document, he would immediately enter a unique reading mode. On his left hand was the document he needed to read. On his right hand was a pen and a Secret Whispers notebook. The first time he read it, he would make notes on the document and write down a rough guess. When he read it carefully for the second time, he would analyze and deduce these suspicious points in detail. Han Dong had to finish his current work within a day and talk to Captain Hugo about true fate. Chapter 591. These documents from the investigation outside the city are so highly falsified? Even if it was just a quick read, Han Dong could see a lot of problems. It could even be said that every report had a certain amount of problems. When these night squads returned to the city to report the results of their investigation, they deliberately changed some details to hide the truth. Most of the night squads would have a certain amount of hair on the results of their investigation outside the city. At the same time, Han Dong also found a few noteworthy big problems in the process of his examination. For example, one of the night squads died during their investigation outside the city. The content of the surviving member's oral narration was not very reasonable, and there was an obvious contradiction between the two statements. Han Dong suspected that the death of the knight was related to their teammate. After a rough examination, Han Dong classified the problems into 3 categories. There are some small problems, worth investigating, a serious falsification. Then he wrote down his deductions in a very strict manner in the notebook. After each deduction, he gave the corresponding page number and paragraph position of the deduction, just like a reference document. After spending a total of 13 hours, he finally returned the notebook to Captain Hugo's hands with clear and neat handwriting. I didn't expect you to be able to produce a work report of this quality within a day. Actually, I didn't plan to talk to you about true fate so early. After all, you will delay a lot of work time in the realm of fate. How about this? Hugo pointed at the pile of documents in the corner of the office that was 5 times the previous amount. If you can finish reviewing these documents within a week, I will let you advance in advance. You can choose to become a secret keeper or secret dispeller. At that time, You will be equivalent to an official employee of the secret library, and you can use your annual leave to participate in the events of true fate. No problem. Han Dong stared at the mountain of documents, but he did not feel a chill in his head, nor did he feel uncomfortable. Instead, his eyes revealed that he liked this kind of work. It was the first time Captain Hugo saw such a strange talent, and he was very glad that he recruited Han Dong into his night squad. Before you continue with your work, come with me. As I said before, I need to talk to you about the female corpse. I have already ordered the staff to transport the female corpse from the Great Graveyard to the temporary foreign object containment room. All right. The female corpse matched the attributes of Han Dong's left arm. To a large extent, Captain Hugo had purposely arranged for the female corpse to appear during the night selection as a gift for Han Dong. 0239813 Commander Hugo had only given the serial number and deliberately allowed Han Dong to lead the way. He wanted to see if Han Dong had completely understood the rookie handbook. In less than 5 minutes, Han Dong was standing at the entrance of a passage with a gray sign that restricted entry for Class 2 and above. Due to Commander Hugo's temporary authorization, Han Dong was granted a one-time access right. After the identity verification, the hydraulic door of the temporary foreign object storage room slowly opened. The inside of the containment room was actually matched with the female corpse's attribute, yellow sand chamber. Since you've chosen my order of knights, I'll be frank with you. You seem to have the ability to graft bodies. As far as I can see, even if your disguise is quite superb. The deformed right arm can be regarded as the result of epidemiology. The ancient corpse's left arm can be regarded as a side effect of practicing yellow sand magic. But from the age of the left arm, it definitely came from another life form. According to the investigation data, you seem to have used Mr. Black and White's name to purchase an arm for a period of time. Yes. Then there's no problem. Hugo only confirmed that Han Dong had the grafting ability, and did not ask about the origin of this ability at all. The female corpse is taken from the final boss in The New Mummy, Princess Armanet. It's definitely not something you can fully control at your current stage. You know this very well. The reason why the female corpse is assigned to you is because the arm of the high priest or this ancient Egyptian princess that you've grafted has a common characteristic that is very important to the Order of Knights of the Secret Word, Ancient. This characteristic will be beneficial to the deciphering of the slate. As early as 4 million years ago in the late Paleolithic age, slate writing already appeared. Primitive people began to use slate to record what happened around them. And in these slate writings that were buried deep underground by our ancestors, there are records about the hybrid demons and even the most fundamental question of their origin. Whether it's the origin of mankind or the origin of the hybrid demons, you can find the answer from these slate writings. Commander Hugo's words suddenly shocked Han Dong. Han Dong had always thought that in the world he was reborn in, the hybrid demons outside the city were a kind of advanced life form that was more perfect than humans, and that they were born due to some kind of opportunity in the First-Time War. He did not expect that there were records about the hybrid demons in the Stone Age, as if they were an intelligent life form that came to Earth earlier than humans. Back to the topic, the specific problem of the slate writings will have to wait until you officially become the mystery solver to understand further. Now let's talk about the female corpse. How do you plan to use it? By absorbing and fusing it to enhance your left arm? Or do you want to combine the female corpse with your ungrafted torso and legs? Commander, the grafting itself is limited. It can't be connected between the opposite sex? No. It's the most basic, weight-bearing problem. The level of the female corpse is very high, so I can't access it at the moment. I can only consider the first method, which is to slowly absorb the essence of the female corpse and use it to enhance the level of my left arm. My left arm was also taken from the high priest, Imhotep, in the mummy incident, and it's not any worse than this Egyptian princess. Commander Hugo said with some mischievousness. Actually, I'd like to see what kind of changes will happen if you directly graft the body of the female corpse. Han Dong laughed awkwardly. Haha, Commander Hugo, don't joke around. I have my own ideas about the torso problem. Also, I don't have much to weight-bearing left, so I have to consider the grafting of the torso. Let's leave the female corpse here for now, and wait for me to further enhance myself before fusing and upgrading. Thank you for your concern, Commander. Okay. After the short conversation ended, Commander Hugo looked at Han Dong with admiration. At the same time, he packed up all the documents in the office and handed them over to Han Dong for review. An hour later, Commander Hugo, who had put aside all his work and was able to soak in a high-end hot spring, muttered to himself. Super efficient document processing ability, grafting creatures of destiny, and a magic eye that can recognize words outside the city. This year's Best Employee Award will definitely be him. I hope that before the great expedition arrives, I can use this kid's uniqueness to make a breakthrough in the research of the slate. At the very least, I have to decipher the information about the king in the slate. Chapter 592. A week passed by. Han Dong wasted 2 pens and carried 4 notebooks full of writing to Captain Hugo's office. Seeing such a workload, the first thing Hugo did was to check the amount of hair on Han Dong's body. He found that there was no sign of balding, and his eyes were not dull. Actually, this seemingly complicated work was not as tiring as the last month when Han Dong was writing his doctoral thesis. At least this kind of written information only required normal reasoning. Compared to the doctoral thesis, it was not that difficult. It was just that the workload was heavier. Captain Hugo was shocked, but he also took out 2 gray badges that represented Class 2 personnel and replaced the normal badge on Han Dong's body that was provided by the Knight's headquarters. One of the gray badges had a question mark on it. It represented Secret Keeper. The other one had a magnifying glass on it. It represented a Secret Dissolver. Just like that? There's no need for a special award or a promotion ceremony. Everyone is very busy. Who has time to do these meaningless ceremonies? Let me explain it to you. Although with Secret Keeper and with Secret Dissolver are mainly responsible for different tasks, they are not prohibited from interacting. Under special circumstances, no matter if it is a slate or a foreign object, they may need your help to deal with it. Actually, Captain Hugo had already hinted to Han Dong to join the deciphering team for the hybrid demon slate. Just when Han Dong reached out to take the Secret Dissolver badge, Hugo also handed over a recommendation letter. If you want to participate in the real fate as a knight, you must have a recommendation letter from a vice captain or above. Take the recommendation letter and go to the Knight headquarters to do a series of registration. The Knight headquarters will review it and arrange for you to form a group with other individuals or small groups of Knight. Together, you will enter the real fate space. If you have your own group to register with, it will naturally be better. Thank you, Captain Hugo. But isn't a week too short? Up to you. With your work efficiency, I can give you more time. As long as you come back and finish the work that you have accumulated there. Okay. Just when Han Dong took the recommendation letter and was about to leave, Captain Hugo added, "That's right. This is your first time participating in True Fate. Normally speaking, a new knight would need at least a year or more to undergo special knight training in order to stabilize their newly formed talent tree. Only those who performed outstandingly and passed the test would be recognized by the leader and receive a recommendation letter. True Fate is much more difficult than the space of fate that you novice knights have experienced. There are many uncertainties within it. The captains didn't want the newbies they had just recruited to be gone just like that. I believe in your strength. But based on the many conversations I've had with you, you seem to be particularly anxious. It seemed that there was also a foreshadowing of fate that had been planted in advance during the apprentice night stage. The destiny realm you are about to enter should be a chain of events. If you are too anxious, even you will be in danger. Thank you for your concern. I will slow down. If you die, my job here will be in trouble. If your friends haven't gotten the recommendation letters yet, I suggest you go to the Night Watcher headquarters before you register. You might find something unexpected there. Thank you. When he stepped out of the secret pavilion, Han Dong went directly to the mailbox at the crossroad. Because he had been working in a closed area for a long time, the moment he breathed in the fresh air, his tired brain became much more awake. This feeling is similar to when I was studying for a degree. Not bad. Since I have been promoted to mystery solver, when I come back from the space of fate, I will be able to come in contact with the more interesting hybrid demon slate. Phew. Let's put these things aside for now. The most important thing now is the matter at hand. Han Dong immediately contacted his former comrades through the clockwork device. Just as Hugo had said, it was difficult for a new knight to get a recommendation letter in a short period of time, no matter how good their performance in the night conference was. Captain Keeman had seen Abel's shortcomings in the competition. Moreover, Abel was being jointly trained by Olivia. He needed to wait until Abel could completely control the beast in his body before he could get a recommendation letter. As for Demps, he directly rejected Han Dong's invitation. It seemed that he had discovered a new world in the Knights of Misfortune. He was working hard to study the demon's techniques and was not ready to face the real fate. Mia did not need to be mentioned. She had just stabilized her insect state outside the city. She had not even spent a day in the Knights of Misfortune. She could not get a recommendation letter at all. Wen Li, who had poor basic skills, was undergoing special training in the Knights of Hell. Han Dong did not send a message to her. However, there was one person who responded to Han Dong. When are you going to submit the recommendation letter? I may need a day to submit the request to the captain. Okay, I'm going to the Night Watcher headquarters in advance. Contact me after you're done with the recommendation letter. Okay. Speaking of which, don't tell me you want to end that thing? We'll talk about it when the time comes. The communication was cut off. Han Dong contacted his first friend in the Holy City, Cass Maldini, who had broken his seed and formed the Talent Tree, Overlord, and joined the Lionheart Knight. It seemed that Cass had not appeared for a long time. Since Captain Hugo had specifically mentioned the Night Watcher headquarters, Han Dong naturally had to make a trip there. Moreover, after Han Dong became an official knight, he should have reported with the Night Watcher medal he had previously obtained. He returned to the underground area. As the city had been fully opened to the public for some time, the flow of people in the underground area had increased. Most people covered their faces with hoods and restrained their aura to prevent unnecessary trouble. The Night Watcher headquarters, built in the middle of the street, was easy to find. In front of the headquarters building, which was mainly black, there was also a lot of traffic. Many people could not help but stop in front of a special statue when they passed by the headquarters. There stood a middle-aged man wearing a round hat, a spiked cloak, and a holy water potion at his belt. He wore a pair of leather spiked shoes under his leather pant. His eyes were like an eagle's. He held a silver sword in one hand and a torch in the other. At the bottom of the statue was the person's name and title: Ryan Haas Gerard, first-generation Nightwatcher, third chief commander of the Black Rose Knights. Just as Han Dong stared at the statue that emitted a heavy aura, a familiar female voice was heard from not far away. "What are you doing here?" Han Dong turned his head and saw that it was the girl he had faced in the finals of the knighthood tournament, Diana Epsilon. "I'm here to report." Han Dong immediately showed the Night Watcher medal in his hand. Diana, who was staring at the medal, seemed to recall Captain Coden's words. Some strange emotions flashed in her eyes. "Come with me." Chapter 593. Night Watchers. They were a special group that was independent of the knights. They were also a type of investigator. The way they were recruited was also different from ordinary investigators. The headquarters of the Night Watchers would not openly hold recruitment meetings. The qualifications of the Night Watchers were often mixed in with some small matters. For example, when Han Dong participated in the night training at Stuart Manor. Because he went out at night, he accidentally came into contact with a special Night Watcher. Due to his unique observation skills, he triggered a highly difficult Night Watcher mission. After completing it, he would receive the Night Watcher Medal and obtain the opportunity to become an official Night Watcher. When he became an official knight, he could report to the headquarters of the Night Watchers. There were also some opportunities hidden in the Adventurers Guild's bounty missions. Some missions involved the secret matters of the Night Watchers. If the executor could notice the hidden situation outside of the mission when completing the bounty mission, it was possible to activate the entry mission of the Night Watchers. Once completed, one could also receive a medal. Even knights who could not sleep every night due to insomnia could go out of the Night Academy to stroll around and observe some abnormalities in the streets and investigate in depth. They could also receive a medal. In short, from the perspective of obtaining the qualifications, the basic element of the Night Watcher's assessment was insight. One must have the unique insight to jump out of the current situation to obtain the qualifications. At the same time, due to the high difficulty of the entry mission, one's strength must also meet the requirements. Han Dong did not expect to meet this female knight in the same batch when he came to the underground area to register because of Captain Hugo's reminder. Han Dong had a particularly deep impression of Diana. Not only did she have Asian features, but more importantly, this girl was more like a high school student. She should be the youngest in this year's Night Assembly. She was also a special graduate under Captain Coden. If he did not participate in the election with injuries, Han Dong would definitely have lost. Her potential was amazing. "Are the injuries on your body better?" Diana did not answer Han Dong's question at all. Although seeing such an Asian girl made Han Dong feel an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Since she did not want to talk to him, Han Dong did not ask anymore. When Diana led Han Dong into the headquarters building, the guards at the door directly let them in. "Uncle Marklon, he's here to register with the Night Watchman Medal." A man with graying sideburns, copper-framed glasses, and black formal attire was standing at the reception desk in the hall. When he raised his head to look at Han Dong, he quickly recognized him as the champion who shone brilliantly in the night tournament. At the same time, he also remembered some of the special instructions of his commander. If Warren Nicholas reports for duty and goes straight to the chief commander, you can take him there directly. Upon hearing that Han Dong had such special treatment, Diana seemed to be a little jealous and pouted slightly. However, he still quickly led Han Dong to the elevator on the other side. The headquarters of the Night Watchers was far less complicated than the secret museum. After all, if any unidentified person broke in without permission, they would be immediately obliterated. The underground area was not restricted by the Holy City, let alone the headquarters of such an organization. Knight Macron, who was in charge of receiving guests at the round table in the hall, was an elite knight commander second only to a corporal. His subordinates had killed more than 100 of his own kind. On the top floor, he knocked on the wooden door with the black rose printed on it. "Come in, Diana." There were a few bouquets of roses in a glass vase at the corner of the black-spotted marble desk. There was a pot of green tea on the desk, and some documents were stacked on the side. Commander Coden, who was wearing a black vest and a white shirt, was sitting at the desk. If one were to compare his looks, Commander Coden was definitely the most handsome male commander. He had perfect body proportions and body fat percentage. He had some masculine stubble and a sexy Adam's apple, coupled with his deep eyes and slightly protruding cheekbones. Even if he didn't have the title of captain, this kind of uncle would still have a 100% chance of attracting attention on the street. However, what caught Han Dong's attention the most was, on both sides of the walls of the office, there were calligraphy and paintings written by Commander Coden himself. The calligraphy was Chinese, and it was written in a very standard script. Heaven rewards the diligent. Heart as still as water. Han Dong temporarily suppressed his curiosity and quickly lowered his head. Commander Coden. Uncle Coden. The way they addressed each other was completely different. Just from the way Diana addressed him, she seemed to be related to Commander Coden. You chose to join the Secret Word Knights. And you still have time to report to me. It seems like Commander Hugo treats you quite well. Commander Coden, you specifically asked Diana to pass a message about the Night Watchers during the meeting. Of course I have to come. At this moment Diana suddenly interrupted. Uncle, if there's nothing else, I'll go back to training. No rush. Yes, Diana seemed to have sensed the seriousness in the air. She immediately lowered her head and did not dare to say another word. Please take a seat. Just as I asked Diana to pass the message during the meeting, I used the Vaughn siblings to test your attitude. Once again, I've confirmed that you have the qualifications to become a Night Watcher. Together with the medal you received during your apprentice night level, you only need to sign the relevant agreement to become a Night Watcher. You can also accept special missions related to the Night Watchers from the Adventurers Guild and conduct investigations outside the city as a Night Watcher. However, I have a small request. Please speak, Commander Coden. I request that when you carry out a Night Watcher mission, you must form a small team with Diana. Even a small team of 2 is fine. Okay. Diana, who was standing at the side, had a complicated expression in her eyes. She wanted to refute Coden's request, but she was suppressed by Coden's terrifying gaze. Han Dong immediately explained his intentions, but I might not carry out any missions in the near future. This time, I'm just here to report. In the near future, I will be going to the real Destiny Realm. Han Dong went straight to the point and took out the letter of recommendation. Commander Hugo allowed you to face true destiny so early? It's my own request. In the Destiny Realm, I have something to settle, so I might have to wait until I return from the Destiny Realm before I take the time to carry out the Night Watcher mission. That's not a problem. Being a Night Watcher is just an identity. There is no mandatory requirement for the number of missions. Speaking of which, have you found a teammate for True Destiny? For now, I only found a tank-type teammate. Commander Coden pondered for a moment. He took out the letter of recommendation from the drawer and quickly added his name and stamped it. He threw the letter to Diana, who was in a daze. Diana, you and Nicholas will form a small team and head to the Destiny Realm together. Uncle, didn't you say that the Destiny Realm is extremely difficult? Suddenly, Coden glared at Diana and she quickly nodded. Oh, I understand. Commander Coden tilted his head and looked at Han Dong. Nicholas, you just need to sign the Night Watcher's confidentiality agreement. When the time comes, you and Diana can register as a Night Watcher in Destiny. You will have priority. Okay, when the meeting was about to end, Han Dong asked out of curiosity, Commander Coden, have you been to Dragon City before? Chapter 594. Dragon City. Han Dong had always kept this matter in mind. When he was reborn, Han Dong learned from books that the awakening of higher life forms had pushed humans to the brink of extinction. Only 1% of humans had survived. There were only 3 known large human strongholds. Holy City, Neothanar, translated as Eternal City. Coordinates, Itaros. Dragon City, Imperial Capital. Coordinates, Kyushu. Wangdu Megalanri, translated as City of Machinery. Coordinates, Sam. The paintings, green tea, and Diana's appearance in Leader Koden's office were all related to Han Dong's motherland. In his rebirth, it corresponded to Dragon City. Leader Koden, have you been to Dragon City? These paintings and the tea in your cup seem to belong to Dragon City. When Han Dong asked this question, Diana was also stunned. This question seemed to have touched her heart. Leader Koden gave a simple answer. There was once a martial artist who was banished by Dragon City. He traveled all the way to Holy City. Unfortunately, he didn't survive. The things he brought with him were also very interesting. The tea could calm one's mind and the paintings could improve one's swordsmanship. Banished martial artist? He came to Itaros alone from Kyushu? This was not a peaceful era. Such a long distance was not something an ordinary person could cross. Even a leader's life might be in danger. If he stepped into the old king's stronghold on the way, it would be no laughing matter. Because he violated the highest order of Dragon City, he had already given up on living. He went to Holy City with only one purpose, to let his descendants live. Han Dong couldn't help but glance at Diana beside him. Now, the origin of Diana, who had the blood of Dragon City flowing in her veins, was very clear. Immediately after, Han Dong signed the relevant confidentiality agreement in Leader Koden's office. He had officially become a night watchman. Under special circumstances, he could show the night watchman's badge and accept special night watch missions or enter special occasions. However, if he wanted to know more about the promotion rules of the Night Watchers, he would have to wait until Han Dong completed a Night Watcher mission. Nicholas, did Captain Hugo or Mr. Black and White explain to you the basics of true fate? Well, not yet. Incas still needed one more day to obtain the recommendation letter. Han Dong had originally planned to go to the stargazing room, or find Dempus, who seemed to know everything, to ask him about things he needed to pay attention to in regards to true fate. Since Diana is going to team up with you, call your Meat Shield teammate over as well. I will briefly explain the things you need to pay attention to in true fate. This is the first time you've entered the Destiny realm after breaking the seed. If you don't understand the details, you might end up in the abyss of death. Thank you, Commander Koden. Han Dong could tell that Commander Koden was being so considerate, not because of Han Dong, but because Diana would be involved. In less than 15 minutes, Cass Maldini arrived. Blonde hair and silver armor. Handsome and bright, coupled with a huge heraldic shield and lionheart pauldrons, he gave off a very reliable feeling. Due to his overlord status, Cass was also constantly emitting a team-type aura, heavy rock aura. It could increase the defense of the team members. The fewer members in the team, the greater the effect. Cass would also take a portion of the physical damage received by the team. Not bad, Lionheart Knight. Commander Koden praised Han Dong's choice. Nicholas, it's been a while. Although Cass wanted to put his arm on Han Dong's shoulder, it did not seem appropriate in the current situation. Commander Koden stared at the three people in front of him and felt that something was missing. Do you need me to use my connections to get you a healer? Perhaps a four-man team would be more stable? I'll be in charge of providing healing and long-range support. The true fate that I'm about to choose belongs to the second half of the Chain Fate event. In that scenario, having more people might not be a good thing. Chain Fate event? No wonder you're in such a hurry. If you can complete it, you'll receive a very valuable reward. Commander Koden was even more determined to let Diana participate in the Chain Fate event. Chain Fate events were very rare. Once Diana passed it, she would also receive a lot of rewards and growth. Since it's a Chain Fate event, there's a need to talk to you about the things you need to pay attention to in the True Fate event. The three of them focused their attention. This was the experience of the famous Night Watcher Commander Koden of the Black Rose Knights. Normal people would not be able to hear it. When an official knight enters the realm of fate, all kinds of auxiliary functions will be removed. The realm of fate will be more realistic and the realm of fate will be larger in scale. Hence, it's called true fate. Once you pass the realm of fate, you'll receive the extremely important true fate points to nourish and strengthen your talent tree. However, many people who successfully passed the realm of fate event during the seed stage died after becoming an official knight. It was not because they were weak. It was because they lacked a certain survival factor. The Holy City has a rule that knights who want to enter the true fate event must receive a recommendation letter, personally written by the vice commander or the commander. This was also the reason. Based on this year's knight conference, only 2 people have such a survival factor. One is you. The other is the little magician in the library. This is also one of the reasons why I'm willing to let Diana follow you to face the true fate event. Commander Coden paused for a while, sipped his tea to moisten his throat, and continued. The difference between the true fate event and the fate event that you've experienced is that other than the larger realm of fate event, there are more plots, more main quests and different factions to choose from. The most important difference is the multi-party mode. In the true fate event, other than you, there will be other small parties that will enter from other entrances. They will fight against the monsters and fight for the treasure of fate with you. The number of small parties is related to the scale of the event. Multi-party mode. At that moment, Han Dong understood what Coden meant by survival factor. What you need to enter is not a random event, but a predetermined chain of events. You might need to spend a long time queuing. The system will try to match parties with similar strength to enter the same realm of fate. Since that's the case, I'll write an urgent letter here. With your identity as a night watcher, you should be able to enter the matching system immediately. Cass quickly added, I heard that Commander Coden was looking for me, so I got the recommendation letter in advance. After Commander Coden finished writing the urgent letter, he gave a final reminder. Remember, don't be greedy. Chapter 595. Since there was a possibility of a longer match. After receiving the urgent letter, the 3 of them immediately went to the Knight's headquarters to register. An urgent letter from Captain Coden, a night watcher and a chain of fate events? Please wait for a moment. Our staff will bring you directly to the clock tower to verify the availability of the chain of events. Once the verification is successful, you will be inserted into the first row of the matching system. Okay. Clock Tower. Han Dong was very familiar with it. Because of Mr. Black and White, the clock had given Han Dong special treatment many times. It was the same as before. The 3 of them followed the staff of the Knight's headquarters to the clock tower and were personally received by the clock. After explaining the purpose of their visit, the clock led them to a room full of gears operating. The subsequent activation of the chain of fate events requires more than 50% of the current team members who have completed the previous event. Both Cass and I have done so. Please place your palm on this crystal ball that is connected to the gate of fate. The information of the chain of events that you have experienced will be displayed. After confirming that there are no errors, the matching of subsequent events will begin. Han Dong and Cass placed their palms on the crystal ball. The pure and flawless crystal ball was immediately occupied by a gloomy and foul aura. Slowly, a strange little town was formed in the crystal ball. The Joker's Resurrection Chain Event, Part 2 Scale. 2 to 3 teams are allowed to participate at the same time. The number of people in each team cannot exceed 4. Status: already matched with a team of similar level. You are in luck. Sometimes, a chain of events like this will take months or even longer to be matched. Since you are facing the real fate for the first time as a new knight, you can also ensure that the difficulty of the chain of events will be minimized. The longer this chain of events is delayed, the more difficult it will be. Once you are all prepared, you can start the matching. When the number of match teams is greater than 2, If no other teams join in within 24 hours, the chain of events will officially start with 2 teams. Since the clock had decided to take over personally, the staff who followed them did not stay any longer and immediately returned to the headquarters. Nicholas, congratulations on becoming an official knight. In the absence of outsiders from the knight's headquarters, the chronographer took off her whirlpool mask, revealing an exquisite and slightly mechanized female face. This was also the first time Cass and Diana had seen the chronographer's true appearance. They were so shocked that they were speechless. Moreover, Diana looked at Han Dong with a strange gaze. In Diana's impression, the timekeeper in the clock tower was a mysterious character with a high status, comparable to the guild leader. Currently, this timekeeper seemed to be very familiar with Han Dong. "Thank you, clockmaker," the watchman reminded. "It is indeed a good decision to choose to carry out the chain mission that was laid down during your apprenticeship as soon as you become a knight. However, the difficulty of this chain mission is slightly higher, and the fluctuation of the energy spectrum curve is abnormal. You might be strong enough, but you lack experience in true fate. During the execution of this mission, you must be careful at every step." "Alright. Because there is already a team waiting, your participation will cause the event to meet the opening conditions. Once the match is made, you will be teleported to the Fate Transfer Station. After 24 hours, the follow-up of the chain of events would officially begin. In the meantime, you will enjoy all the best services at the transit station. If you are ready, follow me." Ready. Han Dong had already prepared before the night election. As for Cass and Diana, who was temporarily arranged, there was no hesitation in their eyes. However, Diana seemed to have some other emotions, considering that there would be 24 hours of rest. Han Dong intended to wait until the 3 of them arrived at the transit station before he could have a deeper conversation with this new girl to establish a relationship of trust. The timekeeper led the 3 of them to the familiar entrance of the Gate of Fate. "Remember to come back alive." Definitely. It had been almost 2 years since he entered the realm of fate, and the feeling of the Gate of Fate had not changed. However, the touch this time was slightly different. Han Dong was not involved in it immediately. Only a notification sounded. Detected that among the 3 participants, 2 of them have the prerequisites to start the chain event, The Return of the Clown, Part 2. You can choose to match the chain event. You can also choose to match the chain event, Talent Tree, randomly. Please make your choice within 1 minute. The clown has returned. Matching detected that there is another team of the same level in the queue for The Return of the Clown, Part 2. You have met the conditions to open the chain event. Next, you will be led to the transit station. Please do not attack any of the staff members in the transit station. When the notification ended, the 3 of them were forcefully pulled in by the spatial pull. BZZT, the tungsten light bulb lit up. After resisting the strong sense of dizziness, the 3 of them appeared in a shabby hotel lobby. Behind the counter, which was full of scratches, stood a hotel owner with a gloomy face. His black hole-like head was full of twisted black lines. It looked somewhat similar to the whirlpool mask worn by the timekeeper, but the face of the hotel owner was more three-dimensional. "Welcome to the Gate of Fate. You will stay for 24 hours, please follow me." The hotel owner, who was wearing a white singlet and beach pants, held a bunch of keys and walked upstairs. If it were not for the timekeeper and the realm of fate's warning, Han Dong would have thought that this place had reached the danger zone of the fate event and be wary of this strange hotel owner. It was similar to the structure of a motel. Walking along the corridor on the 2nd floor, Han Dong immediately discovered the video store, which was a street away. Every time he entered the realm of fate, he would have to choose a store for the event selection. The bright street lights completely illuminated the dark area of the store. You can rest here for the duration of your stay. The room can satisfy all your needs. Room 204, which was opened by the hotel owner, was only equipped with a shabby single bed and a black and white TV. This TV, Han Dong quickly discovered a problem. The remote control could open various menus on the TV. Change room, change style, add facilities. Not long after, Han Dong created a luxurious European-style mansion. At the same time, there was also a variety of food delivery services. There was even a massage service. A black-face technician would come into the room to give professional massages. Not long after, the various functions of the transit station were played by Han Dong. At the moment, Han Dong and Cass were sitting at a table on the balcony. They were holding skewers and drinking wine. Han Dong would occasionally glance at Diana, who was in the room. Ever since she entered the room, she had not said a word. Chapter 596. 24 hours of staytime. At most, they would only need 10 hours of rest. The remaining 14 hours would be used to enjoy the service of the transit station and communicate with their teammates. Just as Han Dong tilted his head to look at Diana, he noticed that the young lady sitting in the corner seemed to be making some special preparations. "Cass, you look better than me. Go and talk to her. This girl seems to have some opinions about me. You're the captain, and you need to arrange the follow-up. It's useless for me to talk to her. Go. Besides, as a married woman, it's not good for me to talk to her." Okay. Han Dong was not very good at communication. Usually, when he cooperated with strangers, he would establish the first layer of relationship through his strength. Han Dong deliberately took a freshly grilled beef brain and tried to start the conversation with food. When he was 2 meters away from her, the girl's voice sounded. "Can you give me a piece of beef bone?" "Okay." Han Dong immediately removed the entire bone from the tomahawk steak and handed it to the girl. When he took the beef bone, he saw that the girl was preparing for something. She was applying a purifying agent to lubricate all the bones in her body. Of course, she was not applying it directly to her body. Instead, she took the bones out of her body one by one, applied it slowly, and polished it. If an ordinary person saw such a scene in the middle of the night, they would have fainted from shock. "Thank you." The girl took the beef bone and crushed it into powder with her abnormally strong teeth. She swallowed it to replenish the bone energy in her body and fill her stomach at the same time. "Can I ask you a question?" The girl who was full took the initiative to talk to him. "Yes." "How do you know the clock creator?" "Even when I went to the clock tower with Uncle Coden, I never had the chance to talk to the clock creator. My teacher has a good relationship with the clock creator." "Then, is the clock creator a real person or a mechanical creation?" "Maybe both. I don't know the specifics." "Oh." After getting the answer, Diana stopped talking and continued to lubricate every bone in her body. "Ahem. Diana, you didn't experience the clown's resurrection with us. Since we have time now, why don't I tell you more about the clown and Drytown? The town of Ridley we're about to head to is an extremely dangerous area." As soon as the topic of fate was brought up, Diana immediately inserted the rib into her body. She only needed to place the rib on the corresponding skin surface, and the rib would automatically sink into the skin and connect to the corresponding position. "Go ahead, I'll listen carefully." As Han Dong recounted the events that happened in The Return of the Clown, Han Dong began to explain. He had heard that the clown could disguise himself as a member of the party, control every single citizen in the town, and that the red balloons that floated around the town could interfere with everyone's minds and even create illusions. Diana stole glances at Han Dong many times with her big black eyes. It was hard for her to imagine that Han Dong, who was still a trainee knight, would be able to deal with such a terrifying existence. Moreover, it was due to a chain of events. Han Dong was still in the process of slowly uncovering the secrets of Drytown and the problems of the inner world. The clown was just an escaped resident of the inner world. In the real Ridley town, there were many existences that were as terrifying as the clown. There were even existences that the clown couldn't fight against. Singing, the ending of the clown's resurrection was given by Han Dong. The terrifying woman's singing and the countless arms that came out of the cracks caused even the muscular clown to be unable to resist. He was directly dragged back to Ridley Town. Diana didn't expect Han Dong to use such a dangerous method to clear the outer world. However, at that time, no one was able to fight the clown directly. This might have been the safest way to clear the outer world. In short, it was very difficult to clear the outer world. The difficulty of the inner world is needless to say. Moreover, one of the inner world residents that I enslaved had all his memories of Ridley Town erased after being enslaved. We can only rely on ourselves to find out the real situation inside. After saying that, Han Dong directly released Togu. When Togu, who was wearing a long black leather coat and had a bald head with a saw embedded in it, appeared, Diana became vigilant. In Togu's mind, all his memories of Ridley Town had been erased. Enslaving? How did you do it? Diana didn't understand this at all. She searched through the knowledge in her mind, but she couldn't think of any profession that could enslave a life form in the fate realm and even bring them back to reality. Obviously, Han Dong couldn't possibly have so many points to exchange for such a powerful fate creature. Everyone has their own specialties. Just like how Abel can control hundreds of beasts, Demps is proficient in all types of magic and can also fight in close range. You also have the unique bone element characteristic. How about this? I'll use mine enslavement characteristic information in exchange for your bone element characteristic information? Han Dong successfully lured the topic to the secret of her ability. Han Dong had to understand this girl in depth so that he could formulate a foolproof plan. Actually, Diana herself cared a lot about the secret of her ability and was unwilling to share it. But at this time, some words from Commander Coden appeared in Diana's mind. Okay, but you have to go to a room with me alone. When talking about her own secret, Diana seemed a little embarrassed. Or perhaps she needed to demonstrate her ability through a practical demonstration. Okay. Just like this, after chatting for a while, the two of them actually went to a private room. This made Cass, who was on the balcony, completely at a loss. For a moment, the two words that others often used to describe Han Dong appeared in his heart. A man and a woman were alone in the room for 2 whole hours. The first to walk out was Diana. She was panting slightly. The cloak that was originally used to cover her body was also gone. Moreover, the moment she left the room, Diana chose to go to the bathroom to wash her body. After about 3 minutes, Han Dong slowly walked out while holding onto the wall. Those who didn't know would think that the two of them were doing something inside. In fact, in a situation where it wasn't easy to use words to explain, directly using actual combat to directly explain. Fortunately, it wasn't a real battle, otherwise, Han Dong might have been seriously injured. I finally understand the other reason why Commander Hugo asked me to go to the headquarters of the Night Watchers. This girl is indeed worth recruiting into the team. It's not just against the monsters in the Fate realm. For example, the real fate of a team mode. Like this, there will definitely be conflicts with other teams due to interests in the future. Diana, who specializes in dealing with people, will be a great weapon in our team. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.